Two
better
Santas
lighting.
and a Jesus, which is good.
That's usual, actually. It's been like that for a couple of years now, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Should never break custom.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it now, forever. It has to stay this way. Good. I will start streaming then. I've already updated Twitch, so I'll just give it 30 seconds and make sure we come up. And then I'll kick us in. Yeah, there we go.
Also, my parents' internet's great.
Yeah?
So I'm in the basement, and I've got 250 megs down and 36 megs up
Nice.
on a 39 millisecond latency.
That's better than mine.
I was gonna say, like, that's normally Canada's garbage, but apparently when I moved them in here, I got them really good internet and
Nice,
totally forgot
brilliant.
I did.
Nice.
Nice.
Good job. Good job.
And I bet they don't appreciate it, or even know.
This means that they've got their WhatsApps come in to my mom's phone. Mom's WhatsApps come, and her watching YouTube must be really good in bed. Because she's turned into one of those boomers.
Oh,
Nice.
bless.
No, it's worrisome.
Should be like, I tried to buy some shoes on Facebook for £2 or $2 Canadian, and they haven't sent them, and it's been 7 months. Yeah,
They've got my $2.
that's the next WhatsApp. Yeah.
Mm.
And the rest of my bank details.
My mom wouldn't buy anything online. She thinks the internet's all a scam, except for the stuff that's informational and looks like a news article or something. It's like the worst of all possible worlds. None of the convenience. They still don't online bank.
No,
right?
yeah, my mom doesn't. But
Really?
it's like the trade-off is like, oh, good, because then she won't be scammed. If she's just like, scorched earth internet, then there's no chance of her getting scammed, which is good. Which I'd probably prefer. The convenience of
She just comes
being able
knocking
to
on
do
the
things
door.
online for her. Yeah,
Lucy, help
trade
me.
it she does that anyway. She's like, "Is this email real?" And I'm like, "Don't look at it. Don't stare at it too hard."
Yeah,
Brilliant.
it'll burn your retinas. Leave it alone. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Cool.
We didn't discuss how many beers we were gonna do.
I've got 2.
I've got 2.
Okay.
I can be flexible.
3. Ooh.
I can also. Well, let's see how things go.
I mean, it's
I've got
also
a
1:30
backup
p.m.
Deya.
I don't need to have 3 beers.
But one could. So,
I will
and
say.
it's,
I should have waited for this question for Ben to like actually intro us, but now we just have a cold open, a cold brewski open. But I figure because it's such a driving city, as soon as you have more than one beer, I'm stuck at home anyway. So why not have 3 in the afternoon?
Fair.
Or 3 by 3. 3 by 3. That's probably what's going to happen.
I may join you. So
That's a healthy sentence a human says that doesn't
Good.
have alcoholism.
Yes, absolutely.
well, it's 8:30 here, so it's fine.
And it's a good way. Good way.
I'm drinking on home time.
On home time. Oh, yes, that's fair. Yeah. Good. Welcome, everybody, then, to our end of year show. It's Tanked Up. It's episode 391. I'm one of your hosts, Ben, here with Adil.
Hey!
And Lucy.
I was going to say, what did they say in Canada? Ahoy there, fair matey.
Do they?
Ahoy
They
there,
all live
fair
on the
matey.
sea.
Classic Canadian expression. Ahoy there, hey matey.
What's a boot?
That's closer to when I lived in Bristol, if anything. At least there's the piracy angle.
That's true. Yes, yeah. Very true. So it's our end of year show. We are, as usual, going to go through some of our top games and almost a bit of a merger of an end of year show this year. As we're doing some categories and we're doing some top games as well. There's plenty of beers, as you've already heard. So let's get cracking into beers. I'll come to one of you two first, just in case we hit 3 for you guys. Lucy, what are you starting with tonight?
At the deep end. And I'm just going to start off with a 10% Imperial Stout.
Woo!
This is from Brewery Kees. It's the Barrel Project Peated, it says. 2023.
Peated?
And it's aged peated, as in peat, bog, peat. Kind of. It's aged in, how do you say it? Islay?
Islay.
Islay. It's barrel aging those barrels for 12 months. This is just one I saw recently. I picked it from the bottle shop last week.
Okay.
So I'll quickly read the flavor text. Another perfectly balanced barrel project by Brewery Kees, because I do a lot of stouts, to be fair. Yeah, it's barrel aged in Islay. Already forgotten how to pronounce it. Barrels for 20 months. This black beauty will catch you by surprise. The barrels come from the beating heart of the island of Islay. Islay is known for its peated single malt whiskies. Try this imperial stout and taste the peated twist. Cheers. Yeah, 10%.
Cool. Good. A good start.
Cheers.
Strong start.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, I thought it was a 2-beer podcast, and I was like, let's go hard immediately. So we'll see how this goes and how slurred I am later.
Absolutely.
So that'll be fun.
Whilst Lucy pours a deal, what are you drinking?
I went to the liquor store because I'm in Canada. I'm at my folks' place. It's 1:30 p.m. And so I went to the beer store near my parents' place, and everything was in 4-packs. And I was like, you don't sell singles? And then I saw that they had a discount cart.
Oh.
So I bought 3 beers from the discount cart because they're just a little old. And I said, you know what? I have a discount setup. If for those of you watching, you can see that I'm at a really weird angle because I'm on a Microsoft Surface. And I thought, discount setup, discount beers. So the first one is I got for $3 Canadian, which is roughly £1.25 or something.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And it is from Prairie Dog Brewery. It's a blueberry lemon sour. It's only 3.3%. So this is why I brought 3, because I figured this would be a really beer. It's a light beer with lemon extract and artificial vanilla extract. It's a blueberry lemon sour called You're Beautiful. And the impact of the tin isn't great because, of course, they've left the shiny part. So it's called You're Beautiful. And if you looked in the heart, it'd be your face. Your distorted face on a round tin. I'll try and take a picture to show you how this is good in concept and kind of terrifying in practice. True Alberta craft. It's Prairie Dog Brewing.
You've had them before on this podcast.
Prairie Dog, have I?
Yeah,
I don't remember if I have.
Like the name, it's familiar.
You got a little prairie dog with a beer symbol.
Yeah.
Really cute.
And I think I liked that. Also, I'm pretty sure you've had Prairie Dog on before.
So, this beer is for everyone, this beer is for you. We put a mirror on this label to reflect diversity, equity, and inclusion through our beer. A modern kettled sour style, this beer is highly tart and crackery with a huge burst of juicy blueberries, lemon, and a hint of vanilla. Enjoy this beer with Havarti cheese, spinach salad, fruit and custard tart, or spontaneous picnics.
Okay.
For each batch we brew of this beer, a donation will be made to Calgary Outlink. And then you can see the new price on the barcode.
Perfect.
I mean,
so I couldn't find where my dad keeps the beer mugs, so I am using the glass that we used to fight over as kids. We had a very idyllic childhood. Me and my sisters rarely fought, except over this. I don't know if you can see. It's a Batman Forever McDonald's glass.
Brilliant.
Wow.
And there, see, because he fought the Riddler.
The Riddler, yeah, good.
And I don't know if you can tell, but there's a batarang going all up the.
I'm sorry.
Batarang all up the handle.
But if I had that, every beverage I drink would be drank out of that. I'm not even kidding.
We used
I'm
to
not
fight
even
over
kidding.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like I said, my sisters were very kind, caring. Like one of them, like they were almost martyrs to like doing too much for their siblings. But the glass was the thing where I was like, nope, this glass is amazing. And that's why we still have it. Like, oh man! Also, just to be clear, McDonald's.
I'm surprised it's lasted that long.
Like, that looks like pure crystal kind of top shelf glass. McDonald's.
It's because it's from 1995.
Oh yeah, when 96. They made things that lasted back then,
95.
rather than the tat that
also,
they made.
It was made in France. I never noticed that. You can't see it probably, but on the very bottom it says made in France. Anyway, so we might not be able to see the color as well. But
drink
you will
champagne
see...
out of that,
oh yeah, drink all the things.
Good,
weirdly, someone on Facebook posted a meme that had this glass. I was like,
Oh, really?
oh yeah, and the meme was about how awesome the glass was, and it's like, yep, no, I get it because I'm currently drinking out of it because I'm visiting my parents, and we've never got rid of it. I mean, I made sure when I packed their house up 2 Januaries ago that that it was part of the stuff not being donated because it would
nice.
be a crime.
Good. Several beers may appear in that glass then. I've got 2 beers this evening. I've got 2 glasses. Nowhere near as exciting as Batman, but my first beer. I am drinking a collaboration. It is one of New Bristol Brewery's winter stouts. But this is a collaboration with Left Handed Giant. It's a salted caramel espresso martini stout. It is 7%. There's a tiny bit of flavour text. The hops are East Kent Goldings. This says salted caramel and coffee beans have been shaken, not stirred, to create the ultimate liquid indulgence. Smooth, creamy, and superbly decadent. So yeah, it's
I like a bit of decadence.
Oh,
Alfred on a moose.
I always like their can art.
Yeah. Let's roll all the way back round to you, Lucy. How's the beer?
Yeah, it poured quite pretty with like a honeycomb kind of head, quite frothy. Dissipated a bit, but yeah, the smell is strong. Definitely getting that whiskey off those off the barrel aging.
Yeah.
But yeah, like really bitter dark chocolate on the aroma. And yeah, just like almost motor oilish kind of smell off the top.
Is it like that in its body?
Yeah, it's got a decent body, but it's not as viscous as the smell would suggest. Because that's what I was worrying off the aroma. Just like, is this going to taste like treacle? But no, it's barely got any carbonation, but it still feels quite light.
Okay.
In as much as a 10% stout can feel light, the mouthfeel is thinner than you'd expect. It's still got a decent amount of body and heft. Flavor wise, I think it creeps in because a lot of the top is like almost ashy cigarette smoke taste. It's like there's a lot of peat in there. Yeah, off the bat, that's really strong. That's really cigarette-y. But after that, and maybe when my palate like acclimatizes to it, maybe that won't feel as jarring.
Maybe a bit more sort of smoky rather than quite as sort of ashy. Maybe it's just the
Yeah, but that smokiness is definitely there. But it's not as quite acrid and astringent as I'm probably describing. But I think, after that initial shock and taste, it's like then you can feel other things creeping in, like that chocolate, maybe even a hint of vanilla. But that smokiness is the top layer of what I'm tasting. I think give me some time because it is quite a strong taste, but it isn't like some beers where it's like, they've gone for that smoke and it's completely overwhelming. This feels like there is some depth and there's some backbone to this that I'm not quite tasting yet, but it will come to the front a little bit later. But
cool. Well,
it's
roll
very strong at the moment. Yeah.
We'll roll through our beers and have a check-in at the end of the section. So, I do. Good beer.
Thanks.
The sour.
Yes, the blubbery lemon sour.
It's very red.
It's very red, yeah. Almost looks like...
That looks like a kid's drink,
punch.
Batman
cup.
cup.
It looks like fruit. Batman cup, fruit punch. This is exactly... Okay, you've made a point. I need to... Yeah, there we go. I mean, it also smells quite fruity and tart, so maybe not a fruit punch, but like a fruit punch, someone put grapefruit juice in a little bit. I do like the lemon is coming out in the nose even, which is good. getting a little bit of that slightly, almost fake lemon smell, but it's just a small peak. Ooh, that's super refreshing. This is exactly what you want to start at 1:30 p.m. drinking, because it doesn't feel like you're having a beer.
Nice.
For a 3.3%, a light beer, the lemon extract is doing a lot. The vanilla is quite light and only on the on a bit of the finish, and it actually only sort of appears after the main taste leaves. And there's a moment where in the finish where the lemon has faded a bit, and you get that vanilla, but then the sour and a bit of the malts come in and sort of push that vanilla back out, which is great because it means the vanilla's there, and it's just there's a moment where it's sort of at the forefront, but it doesn't. It's not like everything fades away and you're left with the vanilla taste, because I think that would be a little much. This is, I mean, this is the kind of beer that I would have rather than a purely non-alcoholic, because it has taste, it's got depth.
What was it?
It
3-ish?
even has more. 3.3.
Right.
Insanely sessionable. I could have 4 pints of this and still be 3 pints of this and still be behind Lucy's beer by 0.1%. It does taste a bit thin, in the sense of like it just doesn't have the alcohol in it, so it doesn't have that viscosity. But there's enough going on. I think the key here is they've made it, like they said, it's this kettle sour and it's highly tart, and that tartness is quite forward, and so it compensates for a weaker beer. It's got a big taste, and because it's a sour, that's what you want to lean into. I think sometimes you get these sours which lean more into the beeriness, and to their detriment. Because I mean, there's a reason why sours are super popular with people who don't like the beer taste, because often when they're both forward, it can clash. And this just, to be honest, this tastes really good, and a little too much like juice until like if I kept drinking sips throughout, like without if I kept replenishing, I would miss the fact that it is more beery, because it's just a couple moments in that finish that might make it the malts come through. So you could easily just pound this back and be like, I had a sparkling fruit punch, but by taking a little more time, you get that beer through, which is really good. Because otherwise, I think I'd have more of a complaint.
Sure.
I don't, unfortunately, have awardy cheese. Also, I'm vegan. But I could find a spinach salad or a spontaneous picnic to try the rest of this out on. But I think I'll just use my flight of fancy and imagination and
drink it with us. Yeah, absolutely.
I suspect, just based on how big that next sip I took was, that I'll be off pace with you guys, but get through my 3 with your 2s.
Sure. Yeah. Cool. We will check in and make sure that we are keeping track of where everybody is. To round us out then, or maybe coming back to Lucy potentially in a moment, the new Bristol Left-Handed Giant collab. It's lovely. I mean, I haven't sipped it yet, but just the nose, it's just so sweet. It's that salted caramel coming straight off. A lovely nose to it. It is a little sweeter than you would kind of maybe think of for caramel, but be interesting to see what that might be, because with an espresso martini, expect it to be maybe a bit more roasted kind of in the nose as well, but I'm not getting much of that. But it's definitely very very caramelly. But we'll go back in for a second one in a moment. But you can see very similar to Lucy's beer, incredibly dark, had a slightly brown, frothy sort of head to start with, which has dissipated really quickly. A little bit light maybe in the body for 7%. It doesn't quite have a heft to it. It's a bit more oily than kind of viscous, I think, for this. What else was in it? So, barley, oats, wheat, salt, caramel, essence, coffee. Okay. But flavour-wise, you do get a little bit of that salted caramel. The nose is the big punch of salted caramel, but in the flavour, it's much more espresso martini.
Okay.
I think you're hit first with that kind of coffee, but it's more of a, I suppose it's more of like an iced kind of, flavour coffee to it, rather than a big roasted kind of note. There's a little bit of bitterness in there as well, and that's when the salted caramel kind of creeps back in. So it's nice and sweet caramel flavour on the nose. When you drink it, you get that big kind of iced coffee sort of hit first, and then your as it bitters, that salted caramel sort of comes back in a little bit. You definitely get that the salt first kind of precludes the caramel, just that touch of sweetness coming back in right at the end. And rather than it being sort of a bitter finish, it's quite nice that you get this kind of like sweep towards a slightly sweeter end to it as well. So it's a very well rounded and very well worked set of flavours into this beer, to make sure that you're kind of not just getting one or the other, that actually they work together quite well. And I think it's a beer where I am going to kind of luxuriate over a little. I'm not going in to suffer. I know the beer I had, the previous New Bristol Brewery collaboration end of year stout that I had, was a little dry, and I was going back to it more and more and more. This is dry, but much less than that previous bit. This just allows the flavour to sit a little bit more, and for you to kind of just take it in, really, and experience the finish. And I've been talking, and I'm not instantly drawn to go back to my beer yet. It's not dry enough that I'm like, I need something. But it's very much kind of like, oh, I should have another one, okay. And then you go through that flavour again. You're like, oh, this works very, very well.
Yeah.
Cool. I may return to it as the flavours evolve a little bit more as we sort of come through the episode. But Lucy, we'll touch back on you for the keys.
Yeah, because when I said that it's not carbonated, but it has a like kind of thinness to its body almost. But I think that's because I had a look at the back, and there was something like kind of quite light, and I don't know if zesty is the right word, at the beginning.
Okay.
And I had a look, and it's like it's got Sriracha Ace hops in it.
Oh.
And yeah, which not expected, because I was like, this is like surprisingly drinkable, even though I think I have acclimated to that smoke now. But it's like, even still, it's still got quite a bit of smokiness, that peatiness to it. But it's still quite drinkable.
Okay.
And I think it's that Sriracha Ace just bringing everything like to a lighter level, like almost in the taste profile, and just not having everything dragged down by like those smoky malts and everything. So I think that's what, I mean, that's the only thing that I can think it is. But it's like, oh, at the very start, now that I've got used to the smoky part, it's like, oh, there's a little bit of a light kick in there. So yeah, but it's really good. It's really, I mean, Brewery Keys are very good. So, but
yes, yeah,
to be expected. But yeah, it was sometimes you just get a smoked beer that is just too far gone.
Yeah.
Like a Rausch beer, and it's just like not made by Germans, and it's like, oh dear, you went too far off the deep end, and this is almost undrinkable and unpalatable. But this is whilst very smoky, it's got so much layered depth to it that I haven't even explored yet. So.
Nice. Good.
Yeah, really good.
Amazing. So let's explore these beers. Andrew, I think I've just seen you swig the last of your beer, unless there was any of the can left. But
oh yeah, no, it's there's plenty left in the can, because this
good.
child's McDonald's cup does not carry a pint.
It's 100 mils.
Just looks like you're necking it constantly because there's so little in the glass.
Piles of these giant mitts.
Yeah.
Perfect. Brilliant. So let's move into our kind of our awards show, as I'm now trying to push it. We need a new awards show. The Game Awards, I think, failed
Awards are
massively.
gone.
They're gone.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about games that
Wow.
we enjoy. We're going to give some awards out for each of us. We'll talk about what our favourite games are for some categories, and do what Jeff didn't do and say game industry's been absolutely fucking terrible this year.
Yeah, really, really bad.
Fucking
It's
corporations
so
and all
sad.
that fucking bullshit.
Yeah. It's really put a damper on this year when everyone's been like, is this the best year for gaming? It's like, no.
No.
Look how many people have been laid off. I don't care how good the games are. It's like, it's not worth the human cost of it.
Absolutely.
Ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, all of the games we're talking about, I think, at least for some of mine, come from studios and publishers that like people, that aren't just all about profits, and that treat their people nicely. But we'll, I'm sure our studious listeners will let us know if we've missed. We've announced a game which we really like, and they're like, no, don't play that anymore. Sorry, those people are awful. But I'm
this
sure,
is the next
sure
Jim Jones who owns this studio. Yeah.
So let's start off. Lucy, why don't you take us forward with the first award? It's I think your concoction for the last few years.
A returning favourite, which is the favourite cup of tea game. So a game that you can relax to, not too demanding, that you can enjoy a cup of tea with as you play it. I'll go with my pick. I was going to go Coffee Talk, but I've cheated and say that's my favourite cup of coffee game.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I spoke about this game on the podcast. I'm not sure if I did. It's called Birth. And
is this the one about the little fly?
No.
Oh, what's that one?
But it is weird.
Okay.
Birth Steam. It's from a solo developer, Madison Carr. Yeah, it's just a like a point and click puzzle game, and it's very weird and it's weird. I don't know how to describe it other than it's weird. It's got like weird bone monsters and stuff, but the background is it's like you've moved into like a city, very Gen Z city where it's like people go out and have coffee and stuff like that, and you want to make a perfect friend out of all the remnants of a human. Yeah, you're basically like Hannibal and just need a friend, a very Gen Z Hannibal.
Okay.
And it's just like a weird point and click adventure game, but it's very relaxing. And yeah, and a previous game, what was it? Let me have a look on Steam. Landlord of the Woods. And there's a game called Whimsy, which is free from her. Yeah, Whimsy. Nice. So yeah, it just weird, but relaxing in a very strange way. So yeah, that's my cup of tea game. I'm glad I got to speak about it. I don't think I spoke about it on the podcast. So yeah, that was a relaxing time.
Good.
That's my winner.
Good. I'll jump in with mine, which I spoke about last week on the podcast, and is SteamWorld Build. It is just a relaxing game. Like there is no pressure in that game whatsoever. City builders generally kind of don't have that pressure to them, unless you're playing something like SimCity 2000 and you've got all of the disasters turned on or something like that, and there's just this hurricane sweeps through and destroys everything. You don't get that with SteamWorld Build. It has that excellent way of switching between the overworld, the city building stuff, and then the kind of the dungeon keeper-esque SteamWorld Dig, not SteamWorld Dig style, but that excavation type mode to it. And again, even then, when enemies appear and that kind of stuff, there's no pressure. It's not big. You can put up defenses and turrets and have guards and things, and you can kind of build around the idea of exploration and encountering the unknown and things like that in a way that, again, I'm not like, I've got to rush to make sure I've got all of these inhabitants and of this tier, which now means I get to unlock all of these things under the ground to then put them in to make sure I can explore. it just that the progression is just so easy. That it is just one of those kind of kick back and play it for an hour kind of games. And again, you're not going to get a whole game played in an hour. This is something that you're going to spend several hours in building out your town, excavating, digging through the different levels of kind of the underground sections. So yeah, it's probably one of the more relaxing games that I've played this year. So it's nice. Absolutely one to kick back with a cup of tea and just sit with.
Nice.
That's a latecomer as well. That's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Adil.
I played like 4 games this year, so getting the categories.
Untitled Goose Game will sweep this year.
It's actually not even on the list. I actually forgot I played that with Keith. Mostly because I didn't play it. I watched him play and gave him hints.
Vicariously,
Vicariously. It's Tengami for me.
That's a good one.
So that's 2015, I think. I played it sort of midsummer, maybe late summer. Can't remember.
I think it was more recently than that, wasn't
maybe
it?
it was more recently.
Early autumn, I think.
October, September, but I mean, it's beautiful art style. Really, I mean, there is music. I couldn't tell you anything about it, but like in the sense that it's so atmospheric and like part of the experience that it just works. But yeah, I mean, it's a neat little sort of papercrafty pop-up book. There are puzzles. They are mostly not puzzly puzzles so much as do things puzzles, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
These are the 2 categories of puzzles, as we know: puzzly puzzle and do things puzzle. I'm gonna have to remember that going forward. But like a lot of the times, what you want is a do thing puzzle, right? You just want to go through and interact.
A shower, not a grower.
All right. Yep. That's gonna be the new term. Forget what I said. But it's got the right. I think it's great because there isn't a lot of. You're not developing like movesets and skills really throughout the game. You can easily pick it up, play for a bit, walk away, come back, and not have to worry about how did the puzzle last time work, because these puzzles aren't super difficult, but they're still enjoyable, and the interaction is the thing, right? That's the thing that matters rather than the I don't know, the puzzle girth. Is that what we're going for?
I'm so glad. I'm so glad we've gone down this route. Good. Perfect. Puzzle games. Puzzle games will never be the same again now, will they? Ruined for everybody. Good. Okay. The next category. I might just jump straight in with my game, because there's not much to talk about for me on this game, but it's the category is game I wanted to play more, and for me. It's the game that I have played the most of this year, which is No Man's Sky.
Classic.
That's an interesting pick.
I wanted to play more. I still want to play more of that game.
That's left field.
I constantly, every time I turn the PlayStation 5 on, I'm like, should download No Man's Sky. I still haven't seen what it looks like on the next sort of generation or this current generation of consoles. Obviously, everything will carry over from my account, my PS4. So I'm like, I really should. And then I'm like, I'll just play maybe 20 minutes of Power Wash Simulator instead. Okay, cool, fine. Or maybe I'll just do something else. And I haven't got back to it. I'm like, I really want to play some more. So as soon as this character came up, I'm like, perfect. That's exactly going there.
That's a good one.
Again, a game from 2016, 17, 15, around there sometime. 5 years-ish, maybe 6 years old, something like that. But one I returned to at the start of this year and have played a lot of. I think I've sunk something like 85 hours into it this year, which isn't huge for sort of one experience, but when you're pulled away by lots of other games and stuff, I keep going back to it, and I still want to keep going back to it.
For this year, which is probably the least prolific for all of us, and you've been working a lot, Ben. That's a lot. That's still quite a bit. Not quite my probably 130 hours in Call of Duty somehow.
Yeah. Which again, you've only been playing since November.
I know. Don't remind me. How
Maybe,
did that happen?
Good, Adil. We'll come
That's
to you then
right.
for the next for your game.
This is a game I wanted to play more of. Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I played it a couple sessions with Keith and one session by myself. And to be honest, I really liked playing 2-player, and so I think by starting the game with 2 players, I kind of didn't think about it in the few moments where I had time to play a game. Think, oh, I should turn on the Switch, play that game I enjoyed. I like Mario's games. I like Mario games. I really like how the inertia. I think I talked about this before. The inertia feels a lot more like Mario World.
Okay, right, yeah.
And that's like one of the things I realized belatedly was the problem I had with the more recent 2D Marios was just they were a bit more floaty and a little more you weren't stopping
They
on a
all
dime.
have a feel like Mario 3 to me is the perfect one because it has weight
Agreed.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why I specifically said this new one feels a little more like old ones, but it does not feel like Mario 3. It feels like Mario World.
Yeah.
It's which is the second best Mario weighty one. So it feels almost as good as the second best one. But that's pretty good. Also, you can be an elephant, and that's kind of fun.
I still need to get that working on PC. I haven't gone back to it. So I need to download whatever fix there is for a 60 FPS mode. Job for the new year. Don't listen.
Yeah,
good. A little bit of tinkering.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, it's not on the our list of topics, but tinkering was probably the most I did video game wise this year. Between the Steam Deck and getting all kinds of things running, and also getting the Vita out of the mothballs. I spent a couple weeks just fiddling with the Vita and playing games to the extent of, oh, this works.
Yeah, I love tinkering. Like I got the Sega Master System working, which wasn't a lot of tinkering, but some tinkering. But it's the tinkerer's catch-22 folly. I don't know. When you tinker and you get the thing running, you never play it. Just like whatever. It's like I got it working.
You've done the fun bit, yeah.
Yeah. I got the Vita working. I downloaded a bunch of backup copies of all the games that I own on the cart, and then didn't worry about ever running those backups.
Yeah. It's sick, but it's so much fun. I want to be the tinkerer and the doer, but no, never. Never the two shall meet.
I understand that.
Moving on, Lucy.
Yeah. You see, I went in the literal sense. The game I wanted to play more of. Where I started it and I didn't finish it, but I really want to get back to it. I mean, I didn't start Salt Sea Chronicles, which is the crime of the century. I need to start that next year because that is my game. Considering how much I loved Mutazione from the devs last time. Coffee Talk 2 was another one, but this was the only topic where I fought with, so I'm just going to have to award it to 2, and that's Blasphemous 2, which I haven't finished, and Hi-Fi Rush, because Hi-Fi Rush has been since the start of the year where it's just gnawed at me. So I guess I'll give it to that one, actually, because Blasphemous 2 came out in September, so there's been less time for me to really regret not playing Blasphemous 2. Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush. It's really good, and I don't even like rhythm games because I'm sure I'm tone deaf, and I don't get on with them. But Hi-Fi Rush is just such a joy. It's like a throwback from when mid-tier games used to be really good time. Didn't, annoy developer down to the nubbins, down to the bone.
Yeah.
Can get it out in a couple of years, and it's just really high quality. And the animation's fantastic. It's such a good game that I knew, because I fell off it because it came out at the start of the year, and I fell off it. And it's like to remember all this, probably gonna have to start a new game, which is like, yeah, I'll do that, but I think that's just the barrier for me to get into. But I'll definitely play that at some point.
Nice, good.
Yeah, it's really good, really, really good.
Cool. Adil, we'll come to you for the next category, and you'll go. What is the next category, and what is your pick?
Best old game?
Yes, best old game.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is a lot of the games I played this year are old games.
Yeah, lots of it from them.
Which was the best one?
Yeah. So in this one, I thought I would subvert to best because I had multiple nights where it became the focal point of the evening, which was Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes on the Oculus Quest 2.
Nice.
I had friends come over twice, 2 different groups of friends, and like, oh yeah, I have VR. Do you want to try this? And it was great. I don't know if you're familiar with the game. If you aren't, listeners, basically you've got it's basically multimodal. So there's everyone there's a person with the VR headset / the laptop facing the other way, which was the OG version of the game, and that person is defusing a bomb, and they're supposed to be in the building with the bomb, and then everyone else is supposed to be back at base, and you've got bomb disposal manuals, and basically the bomb will either be one-sided or double-sided with a number of panels on them, and then other things on the frame like number of batteries and serial numbers, etc. And your job as the bomb diffuser is to describe the situation in front of you. It's like top left panel has a number of wires. There's like 7 wires, white, blue, red, and etc. Or like there's a keypad with a bunch of symbols, and the people have to go leaf through the manual. And based on the description, the manual will give the directions. So, like, are there an even number of wires? How many? Is the second to the last one yellow? Then cut the first red wire. These types of weird, like, totally algorithmic, but the whole point is, it's actually a communication game, right?
Yeah.
It's can the person with the headset describe the situation well enough, and can the people easily explain what the instructions are saying, such that within the time allotted, the person defusing the bomb can do all the things to defuse the bomb or have it explode in their face. But it's tons of fun, and like it's great because even the super competitive people who want to win the game still rely on everyone else. So like they might want to stay on being on the headset, but that doesn't mean that they're like versus like Super Hot, where someone's like, oh, I really want to beat this level. Everyone's kind of just waiting around, and unless you've like hook the Quest up to the TV, they can't actually see what this person's doing, right? Here, you might not be able to see the bomb, but you are integral to the game, and so it's one of the few sort of quote unquote party VR games, because like you can pass a headset around and then roll around, and that means everyone can have a chance. But really, everyone is kind of always playing the game because we're all playing together.
That's good. Nice, good. Mine is almost the complete opposite, I suppose, as a game to that.
It's a bomb building game.
But
you try and kill the most people.
Almost. It's a game I started this year, but was everybody else's game of the year last year, and that's Elden Ring. I don't think we have to say anything much about it. I talked about it at length last year. I talked about it at length at the start of this year as well. It's just a phenomenal game. And I played a lot of old games this year. A few sort of remasters and kind of picking up a lot of things that I just missed. Especially lots of PlayStation 5 games as well that I've played in sort of recent months and things. But Elden Ring is just something else, isn't it? It's just such a quality product. And Elden Ring could have almost been my pick for every category we kind of have. But yeah, just best old game. I think just sums it up, even though it's not really an old game, to be fair.
I think it was my game of the year last year.
Yes, yeah, I think it was both of your games last year. Oh, it was your second, was it, Lucy?
Yes, I chose
Citizen Sleeper. Yes,
like Elden Ring could have absolutely been. It's the game of the decade. It's so good. Jeez, what a game.
Good.
I played that in the Netherlands instead of sleeping. My first night when I was on my way, because the friend I was visiting, I was staying at his brother's. We were staying at his brother's place with him, and I was sleeping on the couch, and his brother had a party. And then when everyone left, we just they were chain smoking cigarettes and playing Elden Ring, and I was like, oh well, I guess I'm not going to bed. Let me play Elden Ring with you guys. Oh my god, your build is wildly different from anything I've ever played.
Nice.
This is difficult.
Mm.
They were on what's his name, the first big boss in the castle.
Oh, Godrin or Moldrin or something.
Godric, yeah.
Imagine how hard that game is when you don't realize that you can run for like 40 hours.
Oh god, man, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was like, why can't I move quicker?
But
now I'm like so
just
over encumbered
Yeah.
with my thief character who's got like tons of armor on there, so it doesn't even matter. But yeah,
I think I'm a samurai.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I want to get back. I want to play that.
I know whether there's DLC. There's DLC coming up very, very soon.
That might be.
Is there really?
There is, yes. I don't know.
I think it's rumored to be soon.
Yes, it is rumored. I think it's rumored to be February, but I don't know. Kind of, is it a kind of you have to finish the game to play? Is it a really late level? Yeah, is it a late level DLC? You have to be of a certain kind of level to be able to do it. Like I did so much exploration in that game. It just allowed you to just explore and explore and explore and explore. And I fought like 2 bosses, but just explored so much.
Yeah, I mean that's how I played it too.
Same.
Yeah.
The only reason I did fights was to get to cooler places.
Yes. Yeah,
I think I was probably like maybe at a push 40% of the way through the main story. And even then I was like, this is one of the best games ever made.
Yeah.
I don't
even with playing such a small amount of the entire game. Yeah, absolutely.
This is insane. Yeah.
Good. Lucy, we'll jump to you then. Best old game.
Yes, that's the one. I replayed the whole of Toem today. Not today, this year. But,
yes, yeah.
But that's not my pick, because I have to say it again. Fist! Forged in Shadow Torch is the best old game. Because, I think that came out on Steam a few years ago. It came to Game Pass this year. Yeah, it continually surprised me. It seems like a kind of a low-budget indie outfit game, and just the animation, the amount of upgrades, the map size. It's a Metroidvania for anyone who missed me talking about it a few months ago. Yeah, it just continually surprised me, and it's like this is a really, really good, solid Metroidvania. Whilst I was waiting for Blasphemous 2, which I didn't finish. It's just like anything that sates my insatiable appetite before Silksong. I'm not even hoping anymore. I'm not. I mean,
there was a little bit of rumblings in the Xbox thing.
No, Ben, just stop. Don't give me any false hope. It's dead. It's never happening. So, that's a crispy girl.
Spoilers.
It's a good place. It's a good place to jump in then. Unless you want to mention anything else about Fist. I mean, we're moving from Fist to Crispy Girl. Like that's a bit.
And I'll get my Deya actually, because this is almost done. Because it is just very drinkable. So yeah, whilst you talk about the Crispy Girl.
Fair enough.
Peter Andre's next single.
Crispy Girl.
So, this is another Prairie Dog. Again, once I saw that there were multiple in the discount bin, I thought, what is Calgary's discount bin? That's an interesting end of the year. So, it's called Crispy Girl. That's Crispy with a C, but Girl with a U.
Girl.
It is a cold IPA at 6.8%. Also, all these tins are pint, 473 mils. So, Calgary's first cold IPA. half European lager, half West Coast IPA, light in color, crisp in finish, heavy on hop flavor and aroma, but without the heavy bitterness of other IPAs. Laura, co-owner of Prairie Dog Brewing, and Christina of Exhale Brew Company have built a friendship over beer, vulnerability, and tough conversations. This collaboration was born from weekly check-ins. How can I help is an easy question, often leading to amazing things such as this crispy girl. Enjoy this beer with Colby cheese, maple bacon cheeseburger, angel food cake, or deep, meaningful conversations. It contains barley, and it was $4.
$4, nice. Doubling the alcohol percentage. We've only gone up $1.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Get it
yes.
open. Crack it open. Lucy, just as a quick check-in. Oh, she hasn't got her headphones in. Lucy.
Yeah.
As a quick check-in. Do you want to open up a beer now as well?
Yeah.
Cool. Let us know what it is.
Just gives me an excuse to drink the Deya Steady Rolling Man, the Strata.
The Strata one.
Nice.
Yeah, because I bought another can of it because it's just so nice. And what a better time to drink it. So yeah, I will read whatever flavor text is on there, which is never a lot for Deya.
No.
It's got barley and it's got wheat in it. A double dose of the freshest indie hops, Stratospheric. Yeah, it's just their Steady Rolling Man brewed with Strata, and they doubled the percentage. So yeah,
Nice.
that's it in a nutshell.
Adil, we'll come back to you then for the crispy girl.
Crispy Girl is this cold IPA that is half, or you missed, but half European lager, half West Coast IPA. It is indeed light in color. It's a little hazy, which I'm glad. It's not totally. I mean, it's hard to tell with Batman. My fingers are. But it's quite goldy straw color in person, and it's got this lovely 2 fingers of head on the third pour or whatever this nonsense cup is. But it is lingering. I normally would show you just how consistent that head is and how it's not really disappearing, but because I'm on the surface, I fear I might knock it over into the beer, and so I won't do that. It's got a really crisp, slightly lemony, zesty, citrus nose. I see why they said on the tin something about crisp and finish, heavy on top, but like that half European lager part, it definitely has that sort of crispness on the nose. Oh wow! Have you guys ever had a cold IPA? This isn't the term I recall.
It's a newer start. This year, last year, maybe. They started.
Yeah,
to kind
it's
of
been
come
knocking
about,
for maybe last 2 years or so. But yeah,
You're trying to swish away the last the vestiges of that blueberry lemon sour.
because then they brew it like a lager, but lager temperatures, and then but it's an IPA.
That makes sense.
I think that's
it's really good. I really like how malty and hoppy bittery it is, but I see what they mean because it's got that crisp texture, and effervescence wise, it's a lager. Like, it reminds me of a lager, but there's so much taste in it. I'd say it's got nice, lovely. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Mosaic or Citra or both in this, hops wise. But it finishes kind of a little dry bitter. So the mouthfeel's not, but the mouthfeel isn't that like when you have a sort of drier poppy finish of like a proper ale. It tends to have much more of a physical dryness pairing with it. Here, actually, I'm noticing that I have that a drying feel or taste, but without quite that degree of the feel, such that I can kind of sit with it versus normally the taste being this dry. With a beer, it almost always means that my tongue would also actually feel dry, and the feel and taste would make me go back quicker. But here, there is a difference there. It's just a little weaker on that physical feeling of dryness, such that I still probably will drink this quicker to not be in this place, but I'm not feeling as compelled,
right?
Which is really interesting. But yeah, so I would say citrus, a little bit of tropical. mostly very crisp.
Mm.
So like a light lemony, zesty crispness, or a not too sweet orange, and then like I said, a bit of a malty mid finish. Really tasty. I'm worried I've set a precedent for myself of drinking quickly because I have no idea how much a cup is. Also, this is 6.8%, but also quite sessionable in the sense that this is quite crisp. The finish isn't long, and in fact, the drying part is already gone. So in the time I was describing how it that no longer is there. So actually, you can sit through it. I wouldn't be surprised if once my palate got used to it, I wouldn't even feel that nudge towards I need to drink versus I want to drink.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's quite good.
Good.
So far, I would say Prairie Dog's doing great.
Amazing. Good. Even in the bargain basement bin. Lucy.
Yeah, I think that I don't think it was because it's like a crappy beer. I think it's just that time of the.
Sure, it's like right at the end of it's kind of year or 6 month kind of date potentially.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this got tinned on March 8th.
Yeah. Okay.
It's still
Oh.
I mean, beers
Oh yeah.
Very, they say, it's probably just for the purists out there. It's like if this isn't fresh off the canning line, then these nerds are going to be like, oh well, the hop profile.
If it's 2 months old, don't touch it.
Us will just pour anything into our bodies.
Well, we'll try.
Like this Deya, which is a very good thing to pour into your body. It's probably a bit colder because it's just out of the fridge than I'd probably want it. But even saying that, and I didn't even have anything to drink after the very smoky Brewery Kees beer, you can still taste a ton of flavor in this, and getting like notes of mango, kiwi, passion fruit. Any other flavors will develop as it cools down a bit more, but it's just so fruity and tropical, but it's still got the body and the depth that you want. I'm glad I've smashed this out just before my even stronger beer later, because it's a good palate cleanser, but it's just it feels like there's still a very clear delineation between the stout and this, because this has so much of its own flavor where it's like they're not melding or counteracting each other. It's very good.
Good.
In short.
Yes. Nice. Okay, perfect. Let's roll back into our categories then. Lucy, I'm going to come back to you. For the next one, another sort of Lucy chosen or Lucy suggested category. Yeah,
and I didn't really finalize my picks until literally a couple hours ago. So I was just like, I thought these were some decent topics. So for any of the people who are ready to write me hate mail, the game I thought I'd like but didn't, I looked at my list and it was Zelda. I've even written Breath of the Wild, and that's not the title. It's Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah.
There was a lot of issues I found with Breath of the Wild, but I really, really like the exploration in that game. I like the shrines and the exploration, the sense of discovery. I hadn't had that for ages, and it's something that I like equivocate Elden Ring to. It's like Elden Ring had like the same level of discovery for me that Breath of the Wild did like a few years prior, because the discovery in that game and the kind of like level design and the game direction, it's like just what's that on the horizon, I'll go there, and you find something new, and that was always interesting to me. I always suspected that I wouldn't like Tears of the Kingdom as much as Breath of the Wild, because it just seemed like I don't want to be harsh, but like a reskin with new mechanics. Sure. It's set in the same world, the same map. I know there's like the kind of like verticality, to it. But it's like still the same Hyrule. But so it's like, okay, but there might, yeah, pretty much. But I was just like, Yeah, but there's going to be something because it has that verticality to it, and they'll probably change some things. But I had a lot of issues with the first game, like the weapon degradation and just the dungeons were shit. It's just there's so much wrong with the first game for me. But so I thought there'd be a chance that I didn't like Tears of the Kingdom as much as Breath of the Wild, but the way in that I don't like it nearly as much and got so bored with it so quickly is just like, wow, it's such a drop off for me. And it won't be for everyone, but playing Zelda nuts and bolts Banjo Kazooies, I don't want to. It's like, yeah, I see what you're going for. It's like this is an interesting mechanic. Cool. Okay. Can I make a Metal Gear dick wielding robot shooting fire out his hands to defeat this bokoblin camp? Sure, but it's going to take me 5 hours to do that, and I could just swing a sword at these people.
Yeah,
It's just like, and at the end of the day, I'm going to get a sword that breaks in 5 minutes. So what's the effing point? And it's just like, it's a sandbox for people who want that sandbox. I don't want that. I want a better Zelda game. Yeah. So yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah, nice.
Very disappointing for me. I understand the merits of that game. I think I got more appreciation for that game when I realised that a lot of those mechanics from the director's mouths, it's just like, we were using this as debug tools. And then we realised that it was fun, so just give that to the players. And they had to rework a lot of that game. That gives me so much respect for the game, but it's not a game that I want to play.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, fair.
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
Okay,
so,
good.
Yeah.
Adil.
Let me just alt tabloid at my list. Okay. So, all right. So
your list of 4 games.
Let me see. Game I thought I'd like but didn't. The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. That's why I laughed.
Is that actually yours?
It actually is mine. Wow. Yeah, so because what happened was I got a couple of Nintendo coupons, and so I bought Mario and Zelda at the same time. And then I talked about Mario that one time, and I hadn't played Zelda and then since, in the intervening weeks, I kind of forgot that I'd never talked about it. I played it for a couple of hours and realized it just wasn't the game I wanted it to be. And so I've not gone back, and I know that means that's why I'm not giving the score or whatever. That's why it's perfect for this category. Exactly what Lucy was saying with respect to my couple hours with the game. But also, like, that's why I kind of didn't go back, right? Because yes, it's Gary's mod. Or Breath of the Wild. I'm not saying that game isn't fun, right? But what do I like about the Zelda games is both. So it's this weird thing where I think Breath of the Wild actually made me appreciate what a fine, narrow needle to thread it was, because what I like about Zelda is the design. Like, they're well-crafted games with a, cliche narrative that they managed to convey without feeling cliche or boring, right? And they did that in Breath of the Wild. But the exploration, you didn't have to deal with that. The way they made the cliche not so bad was because you didn't do the game very quickly, because you could just fuck around. But ultimately, there was a story there that was the classic Zelda story, and you could solve the puzzles, or you could do whatever, and you could kind of Tom Clancy's TM Ghost Recon or Wildlands your way around for a while if you wanted, until the Blood Moon came, and then all your mobs get reset, right? Here it felt like, okay, it's the same thing, except now I can do stuff that doesn't, like, physicsy Garry's Mod stuff. It's like, okay, but, like, that's not... It felt very shoehorned. I mean, I say 2 hours, it might have been closer to 5, but, like, the Garry's Mod stuff didn't really feel, and Lucy explains why, right? That, like, as part of the nuanced designed thing, because it wasn't. They just threw extra tools in and gave the player a sandbox in a sandbox. But the reason why I liked Breath of the Wild was the same reason why, like Lucy said, Elden Ring, is that sandbox of exploration. The fact that the world was populated, there was things to do. It felt more organic and alive, and there was enough stuff you could find to reward that exploration. I think Elden Ring does it better, but I think Elden Ring wouldn't have been able to do it better if it wasn't for Breath of the Wild. Problem is, you can't make that game again.
No.
Yeah.
And like sequels, because this is a sequel, right? Have to live up. They have to, in games, they have to be more than just a rehash and a story, right? Games are interactive, and so it's much harder to make a sequel game to something groundbreaking, because you just don't, you can't ever recreate the magic that is, I can go anywhere.
Yeah. That is such a great descriptor, that it's Gary's mod, because it is just like a present to the people who stayed in that world and pushed it to its limits. That's exactly what it is. But it's Nintendo-fied, where it's not free, it's not open source, it's not anything. It's just, here you go, the same thing again, but you'll eat it up and give it Game of the Year to it because you're all saps. I said I wasn't going to be mean, but for anyone who thinks Breath of the Wild, I haven't even played Baldur's Gate, but it sounds way more interesting than what Breath of the Wild is, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't even like those games, but it sounds like it's doing way more different to even its predecessor, that it deserves more credit than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. Good. To round us out then for a game I thought I didn't like, mine is Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. The mobile Final Fantasy VII.
Come on, Ben. Boo, boo, unfortunately.
Well, I didn't play Zelda. I mean, I could say it's the game.
Not Zelda. It was just like a mobile game of the Final Fantasy. Yeah, okay. Real left field there. Real putting your neck out there. Okay.
Well, I did have.
I mean, he thought he would like it.
I mean, I did think I would like it.
He's a nerd and he loves everything.
I did think
Final Fantasy VII. So
yeah, but he doesn't. That means it's so bad that even Ben didn't like it.
So like I did like parts of it, right? I liked this the idea that it was a snapshot kind of version of Final Fantasy VII. You know, you're not playing through the entire game. You're playing this very shortened version. You're still getting the story beats. It's slightly different angles. It's a different aesthetic. It kind of works, and the combat was, you know, reasonable enough, but it was so wrapped in this mobile bullshit of you can rather than finding items, you can pay 400 credits, 400 fucking Square Enix bucks, and you could get sword number 5. Or you could get the tie-in sword from Dragon fucking Quest or something. It's just like, oh, fuck right off. I don't want to log in every day for bonus things and credits and currencies and all of this sort of shit. I just wanted a nice snapshot, short version of Final Fantasy VII that tied in 7, tied in Dirge of Cerberus, which was the Vincent PS2 fucking game that tied in Crisis Core, which I'd already played on PS4, the remake during earlier in the year as well. But just tying it all into one big fucking bundle and being like, it's snapshot. This is a game that you will be able to play over a month maybe, but you're hitting all of these beats. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I want. But no, they fucked it completely.
Oh, Square Enix messed with something up in a mobile game format.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
I know. How
I'm sorry.
Dare they?
Crapping all over you.
Oh no, absolutely. You should because it is crap. Yep. It is crap. I did have before I put that in, I did have Dark Envoy in there, which was the kind of CRPG style kind of game, but actually. Thinking about it, I did like it. I did like what I played about that game. I just didn't like the fact that it fucking crapped out when it fully released and just got rid of my save, and I had to start again with all of it. But I did like what I played of that game. So suddenly, I'm like, oh no, I haven't got anything for this. And then I remembered I dabbled in Final Fantasy mobile bullshit. So yes, that was my pick. let's jump into what's the next one? Best narrative. I suppose the next three are kind of like heavy hitters, really, out of all of them. We've gone for sort of slightly more classic awards, I guess, for the next few topics. But best narrative for people.
Are we doing our top three after this?
Yes. So we've got, maybe another...
Mine will be relatively short for these next three characters.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to give away chunks of my top three.
That's fine. If you don't want to do the category, just say I'm bowing out.
I abstain.
Yes. Which is absolutely fine, because these are like the next three are best narrative, best gameplay loop, and best soundtrack and audio. So they're kind of games that very much could be within people's top three. So absolutely abstain if you need to do so. Best narrative, a deal. Do abstain.
Oh, wait.
You'll wait, yeah.
Cool. Lucy.
That's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
When I did.
Yeah. My true pick, I would say also I'll wait. But in lieu of that, I put South Scrimshaw Part 1, which is that weird free whale game that I played, that I wrote about. It's like my first post on my blog, on my Substack. And it's just this weird free game, which is about... It's a visual... It's not even a visual novel, because those usually have interactivity. It's just like a novelization of this fake space sea world about this. It's Blue Planet, but with a space whale. The game that I was picking anyway also has space whales. That's interesting. The thing that was from my best narrative would have been the space whale game, but not that space whale.
The other space whale game.
Space whale.
Star Trek 3, the movie, the game. Is that?
Yeah, because there's multiple space whale games apparently. But it's free. Go pick it up. It's on Steam. That's where I played it, on Steam Deck. It's a space whale game. South Scrimshaw Part 1. I gave the dude some money because I want to see Part 2.
Sure.
He did a good. It's like probably about hour and a half, 90 minutes worth of just Blue Planet narration. It's about this baby whale.
Nice.
And it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. Like, what happens to this baby whale? But just like the kind of like sci-fi, like marinologist kind of slant to it. It's just really interesting and really deep and really. There's a lot of lore to this world that is very interesting and very. Yeah. So yeah, in lieu of the other space whale game, that's my favourite narrative.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I mean, for me as well, I had multiple games that could have gone into this, and keeping out of my top three, I went with The Invincible for best narrative. It's a very well written game, and it is all about the narrative. Yeah, there's that little bit of exploration with it, but actually the exploration is very linear, and it is just pushing on that narrative, whether it's through items that you pick up or a little bit of exposition that you get. Kind of if you diverge off of the main path, you still get from A to B. You're just maybe diverging very slightly, and you get a little bit more exposition. But I was very invested in those characters, and sort of the story. I haven't finished it, so it's
well,
again,
how good it is.
It's very much the kind of like the game I wanted to play more as well of, but I've got maybe like 30 minutes of it left. It's just finding 30 minutes to jump back on the PC to play it. But yes, I really enjoyed the story of it, and it's one of those that it still pops up in my, when I'm thinking about the Invincible, it still pops up like, could that game have finished if I'd have just picked go back to the spaceship now rather than explore more? Because again, if it had have finished, if I'd have gone back to the spaceship, I'd have still been satisfied with what I'd have experienced as a game and the narrative and the story that I'd kind of been told through that. So and the Invincible is pretty much just all about it is all about the world and the narrative and the story being told. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'd wondered if that was going to appear somewhere on one of your lists. So, yeah, good to see it.
Absolutely. Probably another difficult category, and one which it would be an easy for top three is is best gameplay loop. And has anyone got a pick for this? They want to jump in. Go on, Lucy.
Quite a shame.
Oh no,
It's not even a loop.
Is it a mobile game?
It's just Call of
Oh, is it
Duty
quick?
matches, isn't it? Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Adele. Call of Duty. Like, what else? Like,
Fair. Fair.
Yeah. Moving on. It was 111 when my year in Xbox kind of thing came out. And that really humbled me. And I was like, I need to finish at least one more game before the end of the year. Because how has this happened? How has this happened to me? Yeah, it's called the playlist, the 24/7 playlist on Rust and Shipment. That is the loop, and it's got me. But it's not the Battle Pass loop. They'll never get a cent out of me. So it's just yeah, that's the loop. And yeah,
No, mate, it's good. It's good. It makes sense. Absolutely makes sense.
I actually have one. I forgot.
Oh,
because my honorable mention of my top three actually has a similar styled gameplay loop. Because the loop is, I have to wait to play it every day. Because it's the New York Times connections.
Yes, sure.
I played that game more consistently than anything else.
Okay.
And it actually I've now, because the tabs there, I often play the crossword, and sometimes the
it worked.
the
It
Wordle.
worked. Yeah.
But
The New
thing
York
is,
Times strategy worked.
except I played Wordle a few times, and then they put the Wordle bot back behind the paywall. Now I don't care about Wordle anymore.
Oh, they put the behind the pay. I didn't know that was behind the paywall.
Well, every time I click on the little stat or the Wordle icon, it then gives me the little white half-screen JavaScript comes up and says, "Do you want to subscribe?" I'm like, "No, I want to know." I got 1 in 3 that was pretty lucky. I want to see how lucky it was.
And you can't get. I was thinking
So
archive.org or whatever it is, and that, but you can't.
It's fine.
Stats. Yeah.
It's fine. It just means that I'm not going to play Wordle.
The Worldbot will always win, and you always get angry like me.
Well, I've beat the Wordbot once.
I've beat them a few times, but every time they beat me, I get an irrational rage, even though I know it's a Wordbot. You know what I mean?
Well, I beat the Wordlebot once, and I only got Wordlebots 3 or 4 times, so that's like a 25% win rate against a bot. Okay, if you don't want to let me find out how bad I normally would lose, that's fine. I've got a 25% win rate against it.
Yeah. Just keep it at that, because it's a rage that lasts about 0.5 seconds, but it's 0.5 seconds that I don't need.
Yeah.
Just the loose to that.
Yeah, fair.
Goddamn Wordlebot. No, it's a robot. It's meant to be efficient.
We're talking about Wordlebot, but it was connections, wasn't it? That the actual pick.
Yeah.
The loop. The daily loop.
It's the daily loop. I think I was talking to my sister when I was in California early in the week, and she's like, "I just can't do it. I fall for the traps every single time." I'm like, that is super interesting, because we must approach looking at this in a very different way.
You just learn it. You just learn the pitfalls eventually.
The thing is,
it's never the most obvious thing, and then you see the most obvious thing eventually, and it's like seeing into the Matrix.
The thing is, I think I've missed the most obvious things in the first few times. I just didn't see them, and got there, and now I got the notion of what they're looking for before I realized what they wanted me to think. Does that make sense? So now it's I bet this is the pitfall, he says, as he's clicking around the pitfall, not realizing it. But if I get it one wrong, I'm having a bad day. This is exactly how my brain works.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun. You should watch Only Connect on like iPlayer or something. You might like it. It's more stupid and esoteric and vague than Connection.
Oh yeah,
some people like
saying
it.
these ones are pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
In some ways, like
Only Connect is like university challenge level of dumbness. Yeah. Anyway, Ben, what's your pick?
I had loads of games that could have gone in this. SteamWorld Build was the obvious kind of pick for game. And actually, the game I've gone for would fit the other category, the favorite cup of tea game, quite well as well. But I went with Viewfinder because I really liked the kind of puzzle elements of it, but then pulling back out to kind of like the overworld as well. So Viewfinder is the puzzle game where you have pictures and you place them in the environment, and suddenly the environment is what is on that picture. The 2D image becomes part of the 3D environment, and you're altering your 3D environment to be able to do stuff to progress through that kind of puzzle. And I think it works very, very well. Like the integration of those 2D images into that 3D space is so phenomenally good. But it gives you that little bit of breathing room as well. So you pull back out, and there's a little bit of story, a little bit of explanation within the kind of hub areas before you jump into doing kind of 5 puzzles potentially, and then jumping back out, and then jumping into do another 4 puzzles or something. And I think it just balanced that well enough that I'm like, cool. I've come out of those puzzles. I've refreshed slightly. I've got a little bit more story. Let's jump into the next set of puzzles. It's not, I think the game. If we were talking about best gameplay loop for any game that we've ever played ever, I'd go with something like Moonlighter, which balanced its dungeon exploration and then the shopkeeping kind of part. It's it's having those dual elements to a game which just complement each other very, very well. And I think with Viewfinder, it doesn't necessarily complement it very well. It just gives you enough breathing room to then go straight back into the puzzles without just burning out on puzzles. It's not 100 puzzles in a row. There is that space between small sets of them that just allow you to go, I know a little bit more about this world now. Let's go into the next set of puzzles, because that gameplay is so good. Yeah. And the way of actually working out those puzzles is very sort of satisfying as well. But yeah, Viewfinder. Cool. Our last category then.
Yeah.
Best soundtrack and audio. Lucy, should we start with you?
Yeah, everything in my mind, body, and soul was saying give it to Air Twister with the weird
understandable
fake Queen tribute band kind of music soundtrack that absolutely didn't gel with the gameplay at all. But no, it's going to Venba because the music in that game is fantastic. You never hear, anything other than westernized music in video games, and having something that inspired by Tamil music, it's just it's just so good. And like, even though the gameplay doesn't always live up to the height of what I probably would have wanted, but a lot of that game is the visual design. Not only that, but like the audio design and like the cooking sounds. And I think they actually recorded actual cooking, like putting a microphone up to like a deep pan fry or whatever.
Right.
And just the music that goes along with that game is just fantastic. So yeah, that's my pick.
Nice, good. Adil, do you have a pick for this one?
I do. I have 2. Well, I will echo Lucy's, which is this. Venba. I think for what's essentially a visual novel with mild interactive cooking elements, the soundscaping does so much work to make those mild cooking elements feel more interactive than sometimes they are.
Mm-hmm.
because it's not even like Foley, because it's actual cooking sounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
the thing.
even-
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
does feel like, and again the music,
So good.
both the like actual Tamil music, but also even just something that some of the parts that are a little more score like to hit the emotional hit, but beats are also very good. And the other thing I had was, which was almost one of my, I was debating where to put this because of best old game, but Transistor.
Nice, yeah.
I played it a bunch in like August or something, and I really liked it. And it's what a good game to listen to.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, like that's Supergiant, isn't it? So
Yeah.
all their music
It's
is incredible. Like Hades, wow, Bastion, wow. You know?
but like just even like your like who you are, you're sort of this like performer turned runaway.
She's lost her voice,
It just
doesn't she?
yeah. And so it
I
just
need to
like
finish that. I think it had Vita. Did you play that on Vita?
no, I actually played it on Steam Deck.
Okay, I maybe I need to, because I think it was a PlayStation Plus game, but
Yes, it was. Yeah.
I never got too far in it. Maybe that's. I'm gonna put it on my Steam wish list.
Nice.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, it's really good. I don't know if it came out on Vita. It's on the Switch
I'm pretty sure it
and
came
the
out on Vita.
PS4. It
Pretty
doesn't say it on the Wikipedia, which means nothing. But
Oh, did it not? Oh, maybe PlayStation. What?
PS4,
knows.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
maybe
very
it-
early
You
PS4
might have
game.
played it
Isn't it?
on PS4.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I
possibly.
mean, I don't. The classic game stuff, right? When you go into battles from not the scoring, different plot beats, the scoring. It's just what a good soundscape that game represents. I don't know if it's like you said, Lucy. It's a super giant game. It's surprising, but I think, given that you are like the singer who's lost your voice, who's now trying to escape, it is one of the more auditorily focused games they've come out with, and you can definitely tell that they've cared throughout the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. It runs very, very nicely into mine. Which again is a very atmospheric kind of the music matches the tone and is Somerville, which for a few people would have played it last year perhaps, because I think it came out on Xbox last year, but it released on PlayStation this year. So it's the first time I've played it, and I think Somerville does a very, very good job of building atmosphere with its music and its environmental sounds. The music kind of sweeps between sort of lovely piano refrains, really light kind of music when there's just a bit of moving through the world, down to sort of like deep kind of, oh shit, stuff is about to happen and you need to be like on it, you need to be running through this area like that, and then just the swell of that just kicks right up. But also the sounds of the kind of the characters, the aliens, or the kind of beings that you sort of meet along the way, and the foliage, and just the tinkering of kind of like rain, and everything in that just builds very, very well for a game that is a side-scrolling kind of, not quite auto runner as such, but you're not doing a huge amount. There's a few little puzzles in that game, but that game is all about the experience. It's all about the atmosphere, and the music really, really drives that. So I think it's probably out of all of the games that I played, the one that kind of hit the most with the way the soundtrack linked up with the game.
Yeah, I was thinking that probably has a very muted, kind of very subtle soundtrack. So if you've noticed that, then yeah,
it does, absolutely. But it's not. It's kind of, the idea is that I think the soundtrack isn't necessarily secondary. It's not sort of muted enough in a way that it's kind of like just tacked on. It is part of the experience. And
no,
it
that makes sense. Yeah, because when I think of Inside, like one of the most memorable things was its sound design.
Yeah.
Like, have you've played Inside,
Yeah.
haven't you, Ben? Adil, did you ever play it?
I didn't finish it.
Right. Oh, it's
Yeah.
um,
So I'm aware. You can say what
yeah.
I know enough about the game that you don't have to
No,
worry
I
about
won't
spoilers.
spoil it. But there are like this part with like this sonic boom part of it, where it's just like, wow, they had a sound designer on this game. It's just like, yeah. I mean, it's a perfect video game. Sort of like what's perfect in my top 3. But we'll get
We'll find out. We'll find out. We're about to move in. We're about to move into our top 3s. Should we open up? I'm going to open up my final beer, my second beer
I'm
for
good
the.
for that too.
Good. Okay, I'm going back to France. This has been sat in my cupboard for a few months since my trip to France. It's from La Débauche, I think. La Débauche. There's a little a little bird skull on that. I think I drank one of their beers, like an IPA or something. But this is Insomnie. I can't read what this says. Dans la nuit blanche, j'entends siffler la mort.
Something deaf.
Oh, good, but brilliant.
Yeah.
This is an imperial stout. Lucy, you might be able to tell me. Cocoa, I get what that is. And sirop d'érable? Sirop d'érable? Barrel aged. That's the words that appear on this beer.
Right.
But it is, I would assume it's a stout. It's 13.5%.
D'érable.
Yeah, as a.
How do you spell it?
Débauche.
Which bit? D'érable. D apostrophe.
ERABLE?
Yes.
Yeah, it's maple syrup.
Oh, okay. So it's a maple syrup beer. Amazing. An imperial stout with.
Now I feel like showed up. I'm in Canada and you're having the maple syrup.
I'm having the French maple syrup beer. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I thought you'd learn that from birth. Even in the botched accent, I thought you'd.
I just, you know what? It turns out that 12, 13 years, no, 11 years in the UK, it's just, it's undone my maple syrup youth.
Yes, yeah, it's fair.
I mean, it does.
Ooh. Okay, cool. We'll roll around.
Oh, Ben, that looks lovely.
It's almost even darker than the last beer I drank, but we'll get to it momentarily. Lucy.
Yeah, I bought this. Was it earlier this year? It's been sat around for a while. But this is the Maiden 2020 barrel aged anniversary barley wine from Siren. This is 11%. Sturchley wines were selling several different years. I don't know what year they went back to, but I was like, okay, I'll pick up a few years back because I'm sure I bought it this year. And somehow 2020 was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Don't know how that happened, but it did.
It's a slander. Don't mention what's going to happen in like 8 days, 9 days.
Yeah, and it's a leap year. I feel like it's been like 8 years since a leap year. I don't know.
Probably has.
Because the last one would have been 2020, but 2020 didn't happen. But apparently,
to be fair, 2020 February 29th was still like a normal feeling day. Like this was the bubblings of COVID.
To be fair, this was bottled on the 9th of February 2021.
Oh,
they had it.
So it's been brewing across 2020, right?
Yeah.
For aging, yes.
But Maiden is our anniversary celebration, a blend of barley wine aged in a multitude of barrels sourced from the finest wine and spirit producers worldwide. Each year's vintage is unique, so visit our website. Blah, 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 blah. 375
nice. Well,
sat around, so yeah. I'm hoping for decadence.
Good. Cool. Adil, what's your third beer?
It is shockingly from Prairie Dog Brewing.
Yay!
This one is double dry hop West Coast IPA. Another at 6.6%. Strong beer. So I picked this order not by pure ABV, obviously, because the other one was 6.8%, but double the sour, called Tail Twitcher. It's got this lovely can art.
Nice.
This almost like Where's Wally slash. We played some games.
Did you play the Google 20 years thing, or what, 25 years thing, which is basically a Where's Wally, but they made it for like the top searches in the last 20 years. That was fun.
That
like
sounds NSFW.
Obviously, it's like tame stuff, like Taylor Swift and Pikachu and Sonic.
Like I said,
pregnant
Sonic.
Sonic.
Pikachu can still be NSFW. It's the internet we're talking about.
No, but the year-end review for Pornhub. I read that every year because it's fascinating.
It's fascinating. Yeah,
it is really.
It's the best thing a
Canadian company. Yeah. Yay!
I want to point out what I love about this mostly is the things in the sky. So you've got this like clown on a red balloon, and that it's not focusing. It's an eagle holding what I think is a prairie dog,
right?
With like cartoon sweat lines.
Yep.
Nice.
There's a rock climber, but then there's a giant kaiju style.
Nice.
And then a hang glider dude and a random superhero. But like this just tickles me.
That's very good. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
So it's called Tail Twitcher. It's a double dry hopped West Coast IPA. Whatever twitches your tail, everyone has that special something that gives them life. Brewing fresh, high-quality beer is our Tail Twitcher. Our flagship IPA, this classic West Coast style, delivers punches of citrus, smooth pine, and resin thanks to a generous double dry hop of Cryo, Mosaic, and Mosaic. Cryo, Amaro, and Amarillo, Lemon Drop, and Citra. Tail Twitcher is balanced with an amber malt base, spicy rye character, and assertive bitterness, making this IPA a beer to drink anywhere. Enjoy this beer with cambazala cheese, chicken wings, carrot cake, or your favorite hobby. And this was
$4 more. Nice. Perfect.
So they must like cheese, given how every single one of the recommendations starts with cheese. So maybe this is like weirdly like second degree non-vegan. Like it's like 2 levels of abstraction supporting people who love cheese. I'm joking. I don't care.
You support the Cheese Network, not vegan.
Cheese Network actually sounds like a better TV channel than the Food Network.
The Cheese Network. Good.
So before I let you move on, it's 4 Canadian pounds is £2. So $4 Canadian is £2.37.
Wow. So you drank for less than 10 quid today.
Yeah. So the $3 one is £1.78.
Bloody hell.
So that first beer I had was under 2 quid.
Oh, yeah, and the other 2 are under £3.
Yeah.
Nuts. Absolutely nuts. But
they're prairie dogs, they're not squirrels. Womp womp. So yeah, I spent £6.52 on the 3 beers.
Nice. I imagine that the new Bristol Brewery Left-Handed Giant was about £6 or £7, so probably an equivalent cost to all of your beers. But one of the good things about the craft beer scene in France is that they were all very low priced. This might have been maybe for like a 13.5% Imperial Stout. I think this was like €4 or €5. Okay, maybe closer to £3.50, £4 or something like that, but still very, very cheap in comparison to what we're used to. This smells much more like a barley wine. Like you get the sweetness. I'm getting a lot of almost just alcohol vapor, just ethanol off of this beer. But it's very, very sweet. Which I don't sort of expect with maple syrup, but maybe not quite like a big sort of alcohol-y sweet nose to it. But whoa. Oh, wow. That's a flavour. Let's go again. I mean, as I'm sipping it, I can feel the alcohol. It's wafting off of this, wafting off of the liquid, and it's
Like the Birmingham Canal.
Just the alcohol absorbs into everyone's skin. It's an interesting flavour. Nothing massively stands out as a flavour to kind of pick out from this, but once you get over the initial kind of sweetness, and as I say, it does feel like a barley wine more than a stout. There's that kind of maybe slight. I suppose it's maybe the barrel age that's doing it a little bit more, because it doesn't tell me what barrels this was in. Whether it's maple syrup barrels, I don't know if that's a thing. But it's very, very sweet. It almost feels a little bit kind of blueberry, and edging more on like a very tart red wine than kind of anything else that's in this, or at least maybe red wine barrels or something. So there's a little bit of woodiness to that beginning. There's a little bit of smoke to that, but it's the kind of real berry depth that you get on this. And that kind of mellows out into something where you're starting to pick out a little bit more of a kind of a dark chocolate maybe in the background as well. So it kind of like creeps in. I'm not getting much maple syrup from this, but maybe that's more just binding these kinds of flavors together. But it's very kind of getting a very kind of like sort of woody, tannin, very berry kind of start to this bit. A little sweet, but then just with those kind of more earthy kind of notes in the background. For it to go much more into a deep, really dark kind of chocolate flavour towards the end. And it's a lovely combination. But it's hard. It's really hard to pick those out. It just kind of flows very, very nicely in between these. And the sweetness kind of like the first bit, the sweetness pops back up towards the end as well. So whilst it is dry, it's not too dry that I'm going back to it. It's allowing me to sit here and savour it, and not asking too much of me. It's not asking me to come back to it too quickly. So again, another beer that I'm just going to sit on top of, and just exactly, just luxuriate over. Who do we go to next? Lucy, the Maiden. That's your Elden Ring name, by the way, Lucy the Maiden.
Nice. Yeah, it's got a weird, almost dark plum color to it. It probably turns up more black on your screen, but there's definitely. Is there any light blue at the bottom? Just where the light is, it's a dark brown, but completely opaque. Smells of raisins.
Nice.
Maybe a bit of rum and raisin. What was it? What was it aged in? Finest wine and spirit. Just says aged in a multitude of barrels. Doesn't actually specify.
A multitude.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Doesn't actually specify which ones. But a bit vinous, a bit winey on the aroma. But a lot of raisin. That's ridiculously smooth and easy to drink for an 11% beer. As you'd expect, there's like no carbonation, but it's just smooth. And easy drinking. Yeah, it's you couldn't tell that's 11%. Just by maybe I need to cleanse my palate from that Deya. This is a testament to Deya how strong the flavors are. But getting a lot of raisin at the moment. Let me have a swig of water. Probably to sober myself up as well.
Fair.
Yeah, a bit of chocolate, bit of raisin. Probably not as much depth that I'd expect. Maybe I'm not sensing it at this moment. Whereas with the Brewery Keys one, it's like, even though I had a strong smoky, flavor at the start, I could tell there was a lot of depth behind it that I just wasn't picking up. Whereas this is the bit of the inverse. I don't know if this has a lot of depth.
Right.
Maybe it'll come to the forefront a bit later, but it's very easy. It's very pleasant. It's something that maybe you wouldn't crack open for your friend saying, well, look at this. I've had this since 2020. But it's just like, yeah, let's just drink this. It's very pleasant. Let's just hammer this down. But you wouldn't have a large discussion about all the depth that it's accumulated over the years. It's just a very good beer.
Sure. Yeah.
For now, we'll see how it develops later. But again, this seems very easy to drink. I think less impressively so, because the amount of smoke and peat on that Brewery Keys, yet it was still very easy to drink. Whereas this is just a lot more toned down, and but it's still very, very, very. You can tell there's some depth to this, actually. Now that I've been speaking a bit more, now that I've been rambling, but I'm just not picking up on it yet. But it's...
We'll return at the end of the episode.
Yeah, we'll return to it, because not middling reviews currently, but like not as strong as the last two beers currently. Okay. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, fair. Good.
Nice, very nice.
Adil, we'll come to you.
Yeah. So much darker, orangey, honey color.
That glass and the orange color.
Hold on. Let me. Sorry. Let me just top it up so you can see Batman's head. There you go.
Because we need to. Yes.
Look at that face.
Nice.
I also love the action lines behind him. It's very good. So lovely pour. Just that top up, it's giving me a nice finger of head. It's definitely much sweeter, much maltier. Like a sweet biscuit. Bit honey. Oh, this is a very good example of a West Coast. With, I wouldn't say more malt on the finish than I was expecting. Maybe I'll get used to it. Maybe it's just the difference between this and the cold IPA, the Crispy Girl. That was awkward timing where I licked my lips after saying Crispy Girl, but I just noticed a bit of beer head on my mustache. Not happy with that. I really like it. Definitely taste the Amarillo and the Mosaic. Oh, I think the tasting note said something about piney and resiny. I would say it's there. It's there the entire time, but not super pine forward, which is kind of nice because it that means it appears when the other things sort of ebb and flow. But it's not like I like a resiny beer, but I don't like it to be too resin tasty forward.
Right.
And kind of take away from the other, just because that resiny bitterness can often mask other things. And this is not that. This is there, but there, but a bit, but like I said, more reserved. So it's there, and it makes itself known when other things aren't. I can definitely tell it's double dry hopped because it's not as similar in the taste to the nose, which I don't mind. It's a lot more malty and that piney, less citrusy, less tropical than the nose would maybe lead you to believe. I like that it's bitter, but not too bitter, and the finish is actually quite light. The previous beer I was saying kind of had a bit more drying finish. This has none of that. My palate feels wet. I can tell the hoppy bitterness is there, but actually some of the sweetness and maltiness is going along a pace with the bitterness. so I'm not feeling too bitter. I'm also feeling like multiple layers of taste on a longer finish, which is more rare. So I really don't have a need to like grab another sip, except for telling you guys what the original tasted like. Yeah, this is definitely a beer you could easily sip or drink quickly because it has a very clear, strong taste, and that pininess is actually is almost not in the finish at all. If you want that more resininess, no, there it is. But yeah, but it makes itself known a bit more in the actual taste versus the finish. So you would maybe pursue that and drink a bit quicker. But other than that, this is just a beer that tastes. You can still tell you had a beer 30 seconds a minute ago. Which is kind of nice. And also, I will say that I think they mentioned there was rye in it, and I can definitely tell that as well. It's a really well balanced beer. I get why this is their flagship. It's a West Coast that feels distinctly of a place, of a brewery. So it's not like a West Coast that like it's not your quintessential West Coast where it's like this could be made by anyone. This is what they strive for. This is like, oh, it's clearly a West Coast, but it's very clearly made by these people. Honestly, yeah, I'm really happy with all three of these, and we can talk about it more at the end.
Nice. Good. Good.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. Can we quickly swing back to mine?
Ooh.
Yes. I know this is another beer that we have had to midstream come back to, but this feels very much like a beer that is, I don't want to say past its due by date, but diminishing returns.
Okay.
After a certain point, it seems like, yeah, this probably would have been good after like a year, but after like maybe 2-3 years, maybe you're getting that diminishing returns where it's like, oh, after a year you're getting so much depth and you know, flavor and stuff like that. This feels like maybe a little bit past its due by date in the sense of that it's not bad or anything gone off or anything like that, but it's like you're not getting the best of that barrel aged content. That's what it feels like. Feels a bit thin, or thinner than I'd like, and a little bit, I mean, for a barley wine that's 11%, you don't want it like too overwhelming. I've had many a barley wine that it's just like, oh, this is too much, but it just feels like it's gone. Yeah, this feels like it's just a step beyond that other side of the yeah, that's what it feels like. Fair. But it's still very easily drinkable and still nice. But it just feels like, yeah, maybe this would be good if I got them made in 2021 rather than 2020. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Good. Let's then jump into our top threes. There may not be a huge amount to talk about on these. It may be games that we have spoken about a lot of kind of across the year or on various episodes. So we'll try and keep it quite short on these. I will kick in with my number 3, a game that I have played very recently, a game I talked about on the podcast very recently, but not a game from this year. I'm dipping back into the archive, but the game that I've enjoyed the most so far on my PlayStation 5, which is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. But I mean, just what a fun game! It's probably the game I've had the most fun with out of any game that I have played this year.
Insomniac are a crazy studio. And
absolutely.
I'm very interested in that leak. I'm sad that it happened, you know, well, with the people's details out there, but I really want to know why they are so prolific and what they do and why they're so well run.
Yeah, I mean, that's just
good games.
Absolutely,
all the time.
absolutely. You never hear about, you know, you hear about Naughty Dog and you hear about Crunch and the culture. You never hear anything bad about Insomniac at all.
No,
and yet
it's like, how did they do it?
Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man, they've already bashed out
for every
several
one
games
Naughty
on
Dog
PS5.
game. There's 7 Insomniac games. You know what I mean? It's just like they're just so well run. It's like I wish. I'm sure they're sharing industry practice and best practices and stuff like that, but from me, an outlier, you know, an onlooker, to know what they actually do, I don't know if you can gauge that from whatever got leaked, but it's like it would be interesting to, because even looking at like the Wolverine footage, like they're already in like, you know, that there are assets and the story's done.
I mean,
by the looks of
so
it's you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting process in terms of the idea of and how many things I have read about, you get so much made to make a vertical slice, which may never actually appear in a game, but actually that's the first thing that you do. So you can start showing trailers, you can start showing things at trade shows and conferences and all of those kinds of things. But that's 2% of the kind of how the game is progressing.
It'd be so nice for the curtain to be pulled back on like the whole gaming industry.
I think that's where
who better to do it than Insomniac?
Absolutely.
I know there's like GDC talks and everything, but there's such a iron curtain between the user and the actual maker. And
there is a podcast, the Game Makers podcast, which I think is hosted by the bloke who runs Insomniac. I can never remember his name.
Really?
Ted Price?
Ted Price,
something?
yes, thank you. Yes. So, yeah, there is a Game Makers. There is a podcast series that he occasionally hosts and talks to other developers a lot about this. But there was the Santa Monica God of War documentary that came out as well. And I think Insomniac would be prime for that kind of style storytelling for us as well, to give us a little bit of an insight into what's kind of going on.
God of War podcast, because not podcast, the documentary, because at the end they were like, "Yeah, I didn't see my kids for 5 years."
Yes, very much.
And I was like, none of it was worth it.
Yeah.
Everyone likes God of War, but who cares? It's not worth you not seeing your kids. And I was just like, because that was obviously Sony, they gave the green light, and it was a lot. It was very revealing, and I enjoyed that. But I was like, why are you celebrating this? Because this could have been a 60% Metacritic game for all anyone would have known.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because you made a good game, it doesn't justify you not seeing your kids for 5
Absolutely.
years.
I think
why are you putting this out? It's awful.
Interestingly, it's kind of, as we started the show off with, how awful the fucking video games industry is. It hasn't changed. It doesn't change. Nothing changes.
Just because you made
fucking same.
It doesn't. Yeah, just because you made a game that got 90% on Metacritic versus 50% doesn't make any difference.
Absolutely.
You didn't see your kids for 5 years. What's the point?
Yep.
It left a sad, taste in my mouth. Great game, but like, Jesus Christ, it's not worth it. Just because someone connected with their dad over the internet, it's just like, God. It's like your kids will hate you and need therapy because you didn't see them for 5 years. So it's like, what's the point?
Yes, but someone else's kids connected with their dad, very nicely through this story.
Doesn't matter.
So we'll roll through these quickly. Lucy, number three.
My number 3. It's Cocoon, which is a latecomer. When a game's just like, oh, you've played video games before. You're not a baby, even though video games are for children.
Absolutely.
It's just like, oh yeah, you've played a video game before. It says nothing. There's no text in the game.
Right.
It's just like, go. The same as Inside. It's just like, oh, go. Press a button and you'll figure out what things do. It just goes, and it's, after seeing that I had played over 100 hours of Call of Duty and it humbled me, I was like, I need to play Cocoon, because it's like, it's made from one of the guys who made Inside, which is the best game ever made. So I need to play it. And yeah, it deals a lot, well, not a lot with like recursion. It has like elements of recursion with worlds within worlds.
Yes, yeah.
It's not as deep. They could have gone like 10 layers in with recursion, because that's how recursion works. But they didn't. They restrained themselves. It's only until like the last 10th of the game that you're actually dealing with like, oh, this is more layers deep. But it sort of reminds me of that puzzle game that I played a few years ago. Is it a Monsters Expedition? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sounds
a Monsters
familiar.
Expedition. Yes, where it's just a puzzle game made by people who make puzzle games. They've made puzzle games their whole life, and it's just like, here, you puzzle game enthusiast, just play it, and it works. And the revelations come with them teaching you the mechanics in an organic way, where it's like you stumble upon them just through your own reasoning and your own intuition, and it's Cocoon is very good.
Are we at witness levels of puzzle?
No.
Excellent. Okay.
I think the stuff like the Witness and Inside especially, I think Inside the revelations are more narrative. The Witness is more, oh, there's stuff going on in this world that I had no idea about, and that only reveal itself to you once you look around a bit more. I don't want to spoil the Witness, but I think Cocoon is like,
Sorry.
There's it's all right. There's like revelations within the puzzles, but it's not even a Monsters Expedition. I think those revelations are better.
Right.
Just like, oh, this was always available to me, whereas Cocoon is like, it's very gated and it's very linear.
Right. Okay.
It's like you. The solutions to the puzzles are only for that particular part of the game. And it's like, oh, I couldn't have done this before because that's not what the game wanted me to do. Whereas in like a Monsters Expedition, it's like, oh, this was always available to me. I had no idea because it's not linear in that sense, because you can go to any puzzle that you kind of want. But yeah, Cocoon is just like, you've played a puzzle game before, you know how to play puzzle games. Well, there you go. Just go.
Okay. Fair.
And it's like, I never got stuck. It just flowed. It just flows in a way that it's like, okay, you've played a video game before. You've played a puzzle game before. I think you'd get stuck if you spent like a day or two between puzzles, but it's like, I spent 2 days on it. The first day I completed 86%. The next day,
oh wow,
because it just flows. It's like, it won't tell you anything. You press the button, you realize there's 2 interactions with it, and you're done. And it's like set in this like bug world where the art direction is like great. It's like, I thought, okay, is there going to be anything that trips up my like arachnophobia or trypophobia? And it's like, no, it's okay. You know, everything's got this nasty bug look, but it's very mechanical and very scientific kind of look to it, and it's just so. It's made by people who know how to make puzzle games, are accomplished at it, and they made a very good one. And it's like, there you go.
Nice.
As I say, it's
I mean,
nowhere near the heights of Inside, but it's
I
just as accomplished.
Bought it based on you. It was on sale, and so I bought it based on your recommendation from the other week.
Yeah. If you start it, you'll finish it. It's one of those games.
I installed it on the Steam Deck, so that might be my tonight. Given it's only 3:30.
Yeah.
Got a whole day in front of you. Yeah, absolutely. With that,
are you kidding? After we sign off, I'm gonna fucking nap. Are you kidding?
Well, before
I've had 3 beers midday.
Yes. Let's jump to you then, mate, for number 3.
Yeah. So this is the reason why I didn't want to talk about best narrative, because it's Venba.
Right.
And what, just a solid game. Lucy said a bunch. We've talked about it on an episode before. I think the representation matters. The fact that it's,
so good. Just as any second-generation immigrant or first-generation immigrant playing that game, you get it. So it's like...
I was going to say, I'm not Tamil, but my parents did move here in the 80s, not to Toronto, but to Calgary. But also, as Lucy says, I think the beats it hits as an immigrant are weirdly universal. In the sense of, if you are an immigrant, you will to somewhere in the West, you'll understand the struggles that it implies. I think the way the narrative leaves us is interesting. I won't spoil it, but I just was pleasantly surprised by that ending. But also, there's just some really strong moments where mild spoilers, something happens to the dad late at night in the park, And they don't, and I say mild spoiler because they don't explain it.
They don't. No.
Right.
But if you know, you know.
Somewhat, yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's somewhat ambiguous, but not ambiguous at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there doesn't seem to. The saddest thing about that is there doesn't seem like any conclusion to that, which is like, yeah, there wouldn't be.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Yeah. Mm.
And I actually thought that was one of the like bundling up the kid and looking for the dad and finding him sort of in disrepair and clearly dealing with some shit. And then just like moving on, and the next scene, the next recipe is like years later is exactly the point. And I thought it was,
yeah.
to be honest, I think that was like one of the best parts of the narrative and writing, because they knew that they didn't have to say more, and actually saying more would detract from, you know, the commonalities, etc. Like and like you said, Lucy, the fact that like there isn't more to say because it happened and probably nothing else.
Yeah.
Like that family just has a scar, and like forevermore his glasses are broken, and that's the only reminder, I think, that it happened. Which also is a really great like tag for. Yeah, years pass. He's still wearing his broken glasses because they never got not poor, basically, right?
Yeah,
and so,
he was always struggling. Yeah, he was always struggling.
And the immigrant mentality of if you can, wherever you can save money, you can, and also that coupled with more the Indian frugalness, we'll say. Like I'm experiencing that now, coming back to my parents' place. That I moved them in January 2022, and just like the things they haven't quite got around to doing, because you know that costs money, and we'll do it eventually. And it's like, yep. And like we said before, it's a really fun. I've griped a bit about how I think the biggest meal you prepare is the least interactive, and that was like a missed opportunity, just because of the way the rest of the game made me feel about cooking and interacting, and like the gameplay fed into that narrative and that characterization. And that was the one time where it felt the opposite. But other than that, I think it's a great game. It's short. It's like indie developers, and it's not about being a perfectly crafted thing, so that's okay.
No, but I think it's one of the most important games that came out this year, for sure. Yeah. It's very,
Good.
Yeah, and so I flipped it between 2 and 3, and I put it at 3.
Okay.
Just because of the gamey parts.
Let's stick with you. Let's stick with you for your number 2 then. Let's roll into your number 2.
Yeah. My number 2 is the Curse of the Golden Idol.
Ah,
which is technically last year's game.
No, it doesn't matter. It's game of the year every year.
Yeah, it's great.
Because I played the DLC this year. Yeah.
So I haven't played DLC. I haven't quite finished it, mostly because I played it with my ex, and then we waited. I was waiting around to continue playing it with her, and then there wasn't her to play it with. No, she didn't die. I did no longer want to play video games with that person. But yeah, so I actually have it on the Steam Deck, and I think I might. That's on my list of before the kids arrive. My sister and my niece and nephew are coming up on Saturday, and so on Saturday they're driving up. So I'll have all day Saturday. I don't have a lot of other stuff to do, so I'll help my parents get the house ready, and I think I'm just going to vegetate and play games. And Golden Idol is near the top of the list because I'm pretty close to finishing it. I can knock it out, and then possibly Cocoon and or hit the DLC up if I'm still in the Golden Idol mood.
Yeah, nice. Good.
Yeah, do go on.
I mean, we've said a bunch about it, so I won't like waste our time. But
there's a new game coming out in 2024 for Netflix.
Yes.
Yeah, I know you sent me the link, Ben, but yeah, I saw that on the Game Awards. I was like, 2 thumbs up, good.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
Good, Lucy. Then your number 2.
It's a Space Whale game, so I don't know where that hits for you, Ben, because I know we've talked about it. And that's my number 2 game, the Space Whale. The Space Whale.
People will not know what the Space Whale game is unless they've got right to the end.
Is it your game of the year? Because then I won't speak about it.
No, it's also my number 2.
Okay, brilliant then.
You can just you guys have a chat.
Yeah. I mean,
it's Jusant. We finished it.
We finished it. We talked about Jusant kind of at length over the last few episodes. We spent a couple of episodes talking about kind of initial impressions. Nice.
I really, really like that game. It's like it does one thing very well. It's colourful. I was going to give it to the best narrative of the year because it is that boomer complex where it's like, well, we messed up the world and we'll keep it this way.
Yes,
yeah. The further you go into this very there's no water in this world kind of thing, and you start to figure out. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but you start to figure out why there's no water. The meteorological reason why there's no water in this world, and people's response to that, where it's like, yeah, we'll hoard it for ourselves, and we'll just be like, well, future generations, we're not thinking of them. Yeah, it does shine a light on like climate change and how it will go, because that's how things will go, and it's like it's rough, and it's all told through the medium of just like the conches, the seashells that they hold up and to their ear, and the music through, the soundscape through that, and written notes. And it's just the further that you climb up this mountain, because it is a climbing game, to try and find where the water has gone, where the rain has gone, the source of the water, the source of the river. It just gets more and more depressing. It's like climbing just like the hierarchies as well. It just works on so many levels, where it's like climbing the hierarchies of society and climbing the mountain and just seeing the people at the top like benefit from what used to be, and how trickle-down economics does work. And it's just like, this game is just a metaphor for all of that, and the narrative is just so good and so well told.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Man. It's interesting. Again, some of the text that you pick up is, we've got to move. We've got to go down. We've got to follow down, and you'd previously seen some letters saying, we've written to the people above to ask them to come down because we can help them, and all this sort of stuff. And then you get varying kind of accounts of that, and some people saying, I'm moving down, I'm going down, I'm taking my family because there's nothing for us here anymore, and other people kind of being like, well, why would we go anywhere? We have everything we need kind of here. It doesn't matter that stuff has happened. So it's a real interesting kind of like microcosm of society in that. And I think the thing that kind of elevated it again for me to top three was, we were talking about that kind of wanting that emotional connection kind of with the end, wanting the idea of not necessarily the struggle of the climb, but that kind of everything had kind of been a little bit easy. It's just a bit of a climb and stuff like that. And then suddenly it's like, this is a slightly longer section, not necessarily harder, but a slightly longer section. The environment has changed. Things have ramped up, and actually it's much more kind of, it feels more there is more of a stake to what you're doing suddenly.
Yeah.
And that evolves and evolves. It
feels quite breezy.
Very much, yeah.
Pardon the pun, if anyone's played to that point. But it's like I knew. Yeah, it does feel more high stakes. Mechanically, there's not high stakes. You still have your tethers and stuff like that. It's like you can fall and you'll still be okay. But yes, in terms of like the stakes of what you as the character are fighting for and striving towards, it does carry that weight, even though mechanically that's not it at all, because it is quite relaxing. But yeah, the narrative just plays so well into that. How you feel like, yes, the end of the world happened a long time ago, and it's like, yeah, it's just so prescient for what will eventually happen, and what's already happening. And it's just like, it doesn't surprise me that the people who made like the Life is Strange games wrote a very good game, but it's it's just the medium through which it's told, it's just so good. It's so good. It's just one of those smaller size games that does something very, very good and very powerful in a short space of time.
Very much.
I loved it. I think it was like recency bias. Why I was thinking, should this be number one? But it could very much be number one. How I marinate on it, in a few months. It's so good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So number ones then. I'll jump into the game that just only very slightly beat just on to number one. It's Darkest Dungeon 2.
Ooh.
Yeah. A game which punishes you. But yeah, Jusant is a game which feels like it should punish you, but is actually a little forgiving and things. Darkest Dungeon is not forgiving in any way whatsoever. But I want that. I want that kind of difficulty. I want that pain. It builds so well from the first game. And this Darkest Dungeon 2 could have been a game I wanted to play more. It could have been best gameplay loop. It could have been best soundtrack and audio. Like, it's such a really good package, especially having experienced like Darkest Dungeon and then Darkest Dungeon 2 through its early access. That the game that has come out as kind of the 1.0 version of the game. It's just so well made that I think I will suffer. I want to suffer through this incredibly difficult game, and I want to get beaten, and I want to go back and think about the tactics, think about the characters, the strategy that I want, the move sets that I want for all of these characters, how they all interact, like the difficulty of their relationships as they move through the world and how they're impacted by the places that we go. Gameplay loop, moving through that world, moving through the map and picking the places you want to go, versus I got here and now I've got to battle like 3 different rounds of enemies to be able to progress to moving on to that next kind of point and stuff. Like, it is brutal, but it just pulls you through. It drives you. It just, I say drives you, doesn't it? Drags you through. It is very much kind of like, get here now, get to this point.
So how many runs did you do?
Oh,
how many runs
fucking loads, mate. Absolutely loads. I'm only into the second chapter of 5.
And you're still...
And I think I've done tens of runs in the first chapter to get through to that point. I've got to the mountain and I've got to that first chapter boss like 7 or 8 times before I managed to get past it. Progressing through then the second chapter, again, I've done tens of runs, and it's the idea of being like, great, this is the environment coming up. How can I tailor my build slightly to deal with that? Here are some items which might make that bit easier. But now what I've done is I've made the next bit much harder. Fuck, I'm dead. Start again. Rebalance, rethink about these things.
Yes.
Think about that strategy. Think about the enemies.
I can see why this would be in the best gameplay loop for you. But...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the characters build over those runs as well. So it isn't start again every time. It's cool. You're progressing your party, and you've unlocked new characters that you can call upon. Now make a new party. Now move forward, because you understand the tactics of that party, and you think that this will be the best way to work this section of the game. So move through with that, and that's how it works well for you as a player, and that will be completely different to somebody else. I think, again, the versatility in the tools that you have to progress through that game are just very, very good. From the characters to the way that you can build them, to the items that you can equip, even to the sort of the build of the coach and the items you can equip to the coach itself, let alone just the characters. Just gives such a breadth of options that it's just like it's menus, it's items, it's placing stuff, it's clicking. It's a menu game, and I love it.
It's a Ben game.
Yeah, absolutely, I love it.
Yeah. No, that's good, because I heard that game had a bit of a rough start in terms of the difficulty leveling and balancing, but to know that it's come full circle and it's like your game of the year, that's good to hear.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Who would like to go next?
I can go next because I've
Go on,
talked
Lucy.
about this game
Oh,
previously.
I'm not talking about mine at all. Mine's a surprise.
Yeah, because that's why I butted in because I really want to know what a deal is. Unless it's Untitled Goose Game, I'm really, I'm really interested.
Oh, it's the game of life. I didn't play video games. I was out in the world.
Okay, Kermit. Yeah,
That's a higher register. It's up here.
that's
Come on, Lucy.
really good. I
Number one,
really
number one,
want
number
him
one.
to just recite his game of the year in a Kermit voice.
No.
No, mine's Chance of Senar.
Oh,
As I
wow.
say, it was
Yeah.
it was a yeah. Jusant, I think like recency bias was like, oh, I really like this narrative, but I'm gonna stay true to myself, and
Mm.
I think Chance of Sinar for the probably limited number of people who actually played it, they understand why language is important and translation is important, and it's not just about a robot, rote memorization of like kind of letters and words. It's much more about human interaction and human psyche and society and socializing and stuff like that. It's just as someone who spent a good 20 grand on student loans to learn languages, this had to be my number one. it's just like let me justify that student debt in one way, and this is the only way. It's just I mean, it's based on like I mean, I've been writing something for my Substack for so long about this game, and it's like I keep adding to it, and it's like it shouldn't be this long because it's about short musings, short video games, which is a short video game. It's like what 7 hours or something like 7-9 hours. But it's just like it's so personal to me because it's like yes, this is why language is powerful. This is why people, especially in England, little Englanders as we are, just like everyone should speak English and Cockney. Everyone should speak like this, and but it's just like no, and everything's being drawn into this whole homogenized language, and it's like no, we should respect other people's languages, and we should respect the intonation and the way they phrase things, and it's like that's why I love Romance languages. It's the way I learned them because it's like the way they phrase things, the way sentences are structured. It's just so much more. It's romantic. It's far better than our botched like Germanic and like bits of Latin and this like kind of homogenized gloop that English is. And it's like
Gloop is such a good word.
It is, and in this short like 10-hour game, it's like you understand there's different structures to language, and it's like each has their own merit and each has their own, idiosyncrasies, and it's like this is Duolingo but made for people and not robots, and it's like I know Duolingo has its merits, and it's like it's not how I learnt language, but it's like it's very good in that sense, but it's like I don't think Duolingo actually teaches the as I say, the idiosyncrasies. It's like this is why this language is so nice to learn. Yeah. This is why this language is like this and that, and it's just like learn what it's more rote memorization. It's like you're not getting to the true heart of it, but it's whereas like chances are in such a short like runtime, it's like you have that sense of because at the end of the game. You are, or through parts of the game, you are literally doing like UN kind of translation. It's like this person said this, you've learnt this language, so you have to translate this. And then when you do it, it's like, yay, these two people can speak again. It's like because there's such a rift between these societies, because it's like the Tower of Babel and all that, and it's like, oh. This is what they're all happy now, and they were all upset because they had different. It's not even like a different kind of like religious ideology. Well, it is because it's like this is how they perceive this language, and this is how they perceive their language. But you're all trying to gain the same thing and reach the same goal, and it's all the language that separates you all. And it's like, oh, if you just learnt to understand each other, everything would be okay. And it's like, it's a very simplified, dumbed down version of like translation and interpretation and language, but it's like, oh, the best version I've ever seen in a video game. And it's like, oh. So yeah, my 20 grand worth of debt goes to Chance of Sinnoh.
Nice.
The University of Manchester sponsors this game of the year, which is Chance of Sinnoh.
Nice.
It's just so the best version of what I deem valuable about language. Yeah. In distilled very simply in a video game, and that's why I spent.
Did you play
I need to
Heaven's Vault?
I need to.
Heaven's Vault?
I need to. I started it.
Okay.
This is just very much more puzzly. That
Yes.
I think that's more heady, and I think that's probably what I would like as well. The way I've described Chance of Sinnoh
was very much not intonation because it was a hieroglyphic language you were archaeologying through. So it's very much a written language game. While I guess Chance of Sinnoh, obviously, it's the spoken stuff.
There's written, there's spoken, there's people's body language. There's everything around that, and it's like, I know I'm speaking out of probably ignorance towards Heaven's Vault. I need to play that game because that game is also made for me. And the way I'm speaking about this in a very heady, like kind of philosophical way is, I think, what Heaven's Vault was doing. I'm just an idiot.
Heaven's Vault is currently on sale, 50%
I
off
have
on
it.
Steam.
I own it.
You own it. You pulled in a deal. I didn't realize you did that. I thought it was just me.
I think I own it on Switch, and I gave away my Switch, so I might have to buy it on Steam. So, but I will do that. But yes, this is the most. But it's me. It's puzzles.
Oh yeah,
like puzzles.
Understand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, whereas like, narrative talking to like your space robot is fine. I like a puzzle game. I like the hardcore. I like a cocoon.
It's fair.
This is the cocoon of language games. Yeah, so that's my number one.
Good.
Thank you for indulging me.
No, not at all. Not at all. Adil, we'll finish with you.
Yeah. What is this? Is it Connections?
Say New York Times Connections. No, it's the entire suite of New York Times games. This game came out on December 5th.
Okay.
Hold on,
super late game.
I want to
guess. That's why I wanted to.
Clues. December 5th.
No, that's it. The only clue you get. Also, it features a mechanic that both of you enjoyed in one of your favorite games.
Ben, we have to guess this.
Okay.
I don't care how long it takes. December 5th.
Is this? Hang on. I've no idea what this game is called. I don't know what this game is called. But is this the narrative? No. It's like a climbing game, right? It's a climbing game. It's not just on. There's another climbing game. Because I looked at this the other day. It's a narrative game about a girl climbing across like the Highlands.
A Highland song.
A Highland
song.
I have a review code for this. I wanted to play that. Don't tell me too much.
Oh shit! It's great.
No, tell me everything you want to. How and why?
What do you mean how?
December. How did you play a game on December 5th? And you played enough of it.
I read a review. It was on sale, and airplanes.
Oh, the perfect trio. Trifecta of Adil's game.
Nice.
It is. So the premise of the game is you are a teenage Scottish lass in the Highlands, and your uncle who runs a lighthouse, one of the last few people who still works in a lighthouse, to the point where you make an audio quip of, I thought all lighthouses were automatic. Does he even know that he might not have to do this? Which is great, because it gives you the sense of modern without losing the sense of not modern that the game wants you to have. Because obviously you don't have a phone. So you have 7 days to get to the lighthouse which is the sea. You're in the middle of the Highlands with your mum, because something called Beltane is happening. That's it. That's all you know. And immediately the game is like, cool. And your mum calls up to you, and you have some options, which is like a couple of responses or run the fuck away.
Oh, wow.
And then you answer, and then the responses are only one option, or run the fuck away, because you already, like, the game does not pull punches. The point is you are gonna go and try and get there in 7 days.
Right.
And it is gorgeous. So Moira is the people characters are in a bit of a Miyazaki sort of soft cell anime style. Everything else is kind of watercolor, and so it's a 2.5D platforming game where you're essentially trying to navigate your way through the Highlands to the sea. And so you think of the sea as depth through the screen, and you are regular platforming in a 2D thing, but
it's like Super Metroid.
Yeah. So the point is, you can walk up a hill, and then when it overlaps with a hill that's like 1 degree of depth the other way, you can then pivot, and then now you'll walk up the other hill, and you've actually moved a little bit of depth. But also there are paths that you can find that will make you sort of literally have an animation where you pivot and turn back to the camera and walk, and then you reappear, and you're now like a huge degree of depth forward. But the key here is that it's a puzzly platformer because you find things / hit moments where you remember a chat with your uncle or your mom or whatever, mostly your uncle's stories, and you have sketches of maps. So you have pieces of paper, there are map fragments. Sometimes it's like you find a boot. In the boot, there's an article about observatory 10 years ago that was made by the University of Edinburgh, but here's a picture of it, and so now you know there's an observatory here. And so the whole point is you try and climb peaks in the Highlands, and every time you get to the top of the peak, it'll tell you how many of your map fragments are like visible, and then you try and track and say, I think it's this point.
Oh, nice.
And Moira will be like, oh, I'm not sure, or yeah, that seems about right. And then when you traverse to that point, there'll be a path there which will push you further deep. That's other than that, all you have is a stamina bar that will be red generally, and if you fall, it gets dumped down, and the stamina bar is how much you can climb, very Breath of the Wild style. But that means if you are super impulsive and you fall a bunch, or you go down a thing where there's impossible to not drop, now for the rest of this time you will not be able to climb some things that need the entire stamina bar to climb. You are blocked from. You will, and it'll compound. If you try and climb that thing and fail, you will fall. And it takes like 2 seconds on flat ground to catch your breath, and then you will like no longer be detrimenting on that. It's also the Highlands, so there's really bad weather. So when it's raining, your bar turns blue, and it'll slowly decrement. But if you find a tree or a cave to just shelter in, you'll rest up. Your stamina bar will go to the top of its current level, depending how many times you fell. But it also won't, like, you can wait out the rain. But what's really cool is when you're at the top of a peak, if it's raining and there's a bunch of clouds, you might, and it says there's 2 of your map fragments here, but it's like, it's so cloudy, I'm not going to be able to find these spots. What do I do?
Nice. That's cool.
I can wait out the rain at the tree halfway down the slope and then try again, or I can just say fuck it and move forward. And so I want to say this about this game. I've played it. I did not make it in the 7 days, so I didn't get the run with the ending that you want, but it's actually kind of roguelike-ish. Well, not roguelike, but it's a loop game, because every path / map fragment you correctly map stays in your journal.
Nice.
So subsequent runs, not only do you know what the routes are, so you can take the shortcut without trying to look for it, but also the stuff you pick up lasts. And so there are certain things, like I found a crowbar and a bottle of whiskey. By the time I didn't use it,
sounds very good.
It's so fucking good. So I will say, you can start.
Last 40 minutes. Maybe she wants to be in the podcast. I don't know.
Hello. Hi, baby.
There's a kill.
Probably can't hear us, but that's
Very
okay.
upset, very crying baby.
Oh, I did
bless.
hear her earlier.
I did hear her cry as well.
Yeah.
Say hi to Kim for us. So this is what I'll
I heard it
say.
again.
This is what I'll say. It's not an old game. It's a game I thought I'd like, and I did. The narrative is so well done because as you like get a map fragment or go to a peak, you have these really, really well crafted, well acted audio clips of you remembering conversations with your uncle or you yourself talking to yourself, and it's just so well done that like I honestly wanted to be like soundtrack and audio great because gameplay loop great because actually I immediately want to play again because I know I can get to Beltane in 7 days now that I've done it once, but also I don't want to get there right away because I found all these random things that have fragments that I haven't mapped yet, and so there's apparently over 100 map fragments. So it's,
Wow.
it's a game made to be replayed, but the gameplay itself is super simple and apprehendable. It's really fucking good. The only thing is sometimes you can't tell because of the watercolor layering that there is actually a second pivot path to go up.
Right.
So I had a couple times where I like looped a really hard place where the only way I knew how to get around things I would fall, and so I just got kind of decremented myself to a point where when you die you just like fall asleep for the day. But also if you don't have a good place to shelter at night, you don't get all your stamina back. And that's like as tight as the mechanics get. I will also say there are points which are the most fun part of the game that feels like it could be an entire game of itself, which is you like come up to a point and there's a deer. And you're like, hello, Mr. Deer. And the deer runs away, and then Celtic music starts, and it says press B to sprint. And then you start sprinting through this passage, and you have to hit Y and X to jump and step on. So basically, on the path, there's like little circles, which are
like
so
a
you're
rhythm
running
section.
on autopilot. Yeah, there's a rhythm, like an auto runner rhythm
And it's
section.
Celtic music.
And it's Celtic music,
Nice.
and you are hitting Y and X on the beat. And if you do it, you will bounce and bound, and you will save time, but also you don't say ouch in the middle of the song, and you'll run a pace with this very pretty cartoon deer, and it's like, I don't want to miss a thing because this is just such a fucking vibe. I don't even care about gameplay elements. I'm enjoying this moment.
Nice.
I
yeah.
literally
You want to
haven't
Aerosmith?
fallen. Yeah, I haven't fallen for a game that's so like in such a simple way in so long, and it's like, and when I like got into a point where I had this loop, which is like sucks because I knew I fucked something up, and I knew I lost a day because I was looping around, and then I fell and lost another day. I'm like, I've ruined this run, but knowing the background that it's okay if I don't get there in time, I'll get to play again is great because as soon as I realized it was a looping game, I stopped feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
Because I don't.
Yeah.
I like this game enough that if I don't get it next time, that's
But you
okay.
don't have to get it in one. Yeah.
I'm actually okay with playing a couple runs of just like exploring and fact finding, and then having a run where I push to the middle. And also, there's no harm in doing that, or I could just like try and speed run it, and that's okay too. Because there's often points where it's like, I'm unsure about this. It's getting late. I'm not sure I should do this. And you're like, yeah, go fuck it, just go forward. And then you do, and there might be like repercussions. That is, now it's nightfall, and it's raining, and there's no like cover in sight, so you're gonna have a terrible sleep, or you might luck out, and you're like, I get there, and there's a tree to nap under, and that was worth the risk.
Yeah, because
Nice,
Inkle's last game was gosh, what was it called? The one where you're on the boat and you kill your husband. That one.
Overboard.
Yes. So they've obviously
Which
dealt
is on
with
my
the
list
loop
still.
Oh yes.
thing.
Yeah.
No, I didn't pay any attention to this game because I was like, it's Inkle. I'm in with someone with Inkle. They'll send me a review code. But you speaking about it now, because I think I read like one review, but you speaking about it now is just like, okay, this is top of my list for next year.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
and like I said, I may not have played a lot of games this year, but it's not a
So
recency
your
bias.
number one. Yeah.
It just clearly has some stuff that I'm super looking forward to. Like, so it is the game like I wish I played more of, because I wish I had more time since December 5th, because I want to do this loop. So like literally, if we look at our categories, the narrative is really simple but great, because I want to know what happens when I get to Beltane early, and also I kind of, you meet people on the way. There's a person doing like random crap on a boat, and she's just
that sounds
doing
like
her own thing.
Really interesting way to do a quote unquote roguelike.
I think
mix
it's
it up with a ton of narrative.
Yeah. So the loop's good, the narrative's good, the soundtrack's great.
So it could have won all your categories, basically. That's what you're saying. Apart from old game.
Yeah.
Old game, and I thought I'd like, but didn't, because I thought I'd like it, and I did. The rest is like, I honestly was like, oh shit, and like, there's also something. There's also something about it and Venba that I think are what I really enjoy, which is like, it's non-standard. It's like there's like a notion of Western-bound cultural point of view, but isn't the central one that's being celebrated and is integral to the game. And both of these games have that in very different ways. But like, this is about celebrating Scottish.
Yeah. Bit of Celtic music. I love that.
Yeah, and what I think is great is by making you like a preteen teen or whatever, you not having a phone or not having service or any of that, like, just gets wiped because you ran away from home. Your mom didn't give you a phone. That's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
And so suddenly the game is timeless. But like the game is timeless because it could be from my youth, or it could be from a youth from today.
Yeah.
And like I said, they have this like, put a hat on. Oh yes, your uncle might run a lighthouse, but maybe he doesn't actually do the work, he just lives there. That's okay. You're going to go visit your uncle in the lighthouse, and the thing is, you've never been to the sea. And so you're just doing this thing. And like, when you fall and stuff, you say things like, oh, I twisted my ankle, etc. And you like, there's just the dialogue, even in the like oofs and offs, and like when you're struggling up a hill or a mountain, it just has the right balance of things like you being kind of an overexpressive teenager being while being a video character, but not overusing your dialogue.
Would you say she's going, dun dun?
Wow.
Oh, a good place to finish there, Lucy. A nice roundup. I can't
believe the bad joke that ended the episode wasn't from me, but I'm glad it wasn't.
Good. I thank you, everybody, for this evening, for the Highland Song, for all of our games of the years. Good. I think there's a lot of games to wishlist from this episode for all of us to return to.
Returnal never made your list, hey?
I didn't play much of Returnal. Didn't play much at all. But there's probably some games next year I'll touch on. We'll probably come back to best game of previous year's game kind of thing.
Could turn up on that.
Which may turn up. Golden Idols from you. I think both of you played it.
That was last year. Yeah.
And I played it this year. My number 2.
Good. I better go and see a small human who's crying. Yes, absolutely. So we will round out this episode saying thank you very much for listening to us this year. We hope you've enjoyed everything that we have done. We've got some new things to come, which you've seen in previous episodes for next year, like little quizzes and
game,
exactly things.
I was
changes in formats,
things like that. Christmas special, but
no, because we're going to start fresh off New Year because we've both got 5 out of 5, so I didn't want to pit you against each other today. So
we'll start the New Year. We're both straight into the New Year. Absolutely.
The Knives Out.
Yes.
New Year.
Oh, I did a podcast about Knives Out.
Yeah, and it was too long.
1,000%.
Brilliant. If you want to get us, we're at outoflives.net on the internet and at TankedUpCast on all of the socials. You've listened to us probably all year before you've got to this point, so you know the things to do and the places to go and the people that we are. Does anyone have a final quick comment on any of their beers?
The Brouwerij Kees was the best one for me.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
It started
I
off
think-
hazy, a bit ropey, but yeah, definitely the best one.
For me, I had 3 discounted beers from Prairie Dog Brewing. I think they like scooped in quality. The Tail Twitcher is my favorite. I think the other 2 were really good. I think if you wanted a slightly alcoholic beer, go for the We Love You mirror image. You're Beautiful. That's the one.
What's the girl one called again?
Crispy Girl was
Thank
actually
you,
probably.
Oh yeah.
I like it was a cold IPA. It's the first cold IPA. I get why people might like those, but
We like
the
a
thing I
crispy
like about-
boy. Why not a crispy girl?
Exactly.
But I would say that I would recommend the Tail Twitcher above all the other 2, basically because it's such a, like I said, it's clearly a West Coast IPA, but it's doing a thing that shows off the brewery rather than just being a West Coast, and I think that's exactly what you want of a flagship beer. So if you want a West Coast IPA, you won't be disappointed, but you also learn the balance and taste types of this brewery, which is excellent. And I'm honestly gonna look for more, even if I can't get it for £2 again in the future, because I lucked out having these 3 beers on offer.
So it's a Prairie Dog's version of it, like a toe curler, a tail twitcher. Got you. Yeah.
Good.
But also play more. I also went climbing for the first time in 6 years on the weekend, so I feel like there's a nice climbing
You should play Toussaint.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to.
That genuinely
just
makes
to round
me
out, just to round out your year. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It seems the perfect.
I'll get you to teach me how to climb after playing Toussaint.
Oh, I mean, I literally was my first job in the world was teaching people how to climb.
Yeah.
So, if you want
Climb on.
Adel to teach you to climb, get in touch with us. But otherwise, thank you very much for listening to us this year. They're the games and the beers that we've enjoyed this evening and throughout our year. Join us again next year in 2024, where we'll talk about what we're looking for too. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much, everybody. We will see you next year. We've been Tanked Up. Goodbye.
Bye. No, I gotta say ciao, right? Ciao.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
I don't think you did. You say bye, Lucy? I just saw you just a wave.
I did a high scream pitched.
Yeah.
I think Discord made that disappear.
It's white noise.
I thought you were just doing this, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll say bye or something. It threw me off. That's why I didn't say ciao. Yeah, no.
Frequency.
www.outoflives.net